Hello, I am the Ronan Pawn, and welcome to twitch.tv/Ronan Pawn livestream. Here on twitch.tv/Ronan Pawn. He's got the beat. He's got the beat. Hello, Tamale and Rex Gates. Rex Gates says, I like that movie. I like that movie too. In case you haven't read the title, I'm going to be chatting a little bit about Pacific Rim today because I just saw it for the first time. And I'm talking about 2013, the film, not apparently Netflix has anime or a cartoon production of it, and also there's Atlantic Rim and Pacific Rim too. I'm shocked that there is so much spin-off content from this thing that I just kind of... when it came out, I was very excited to see it, but never got around to it, and I went looking to watch Pacific Rim online and couldn't for the life of me find Pacific Rim, just the 2013 original film. Amazon's list, I had to search harder and harder to find the original for all the spin-off stuff that's out there about it, but I just watched it last night, first time ever. I've got opinions, and now I'm gonna throw them at the internet, because that's what you do with opinions these days. Hello, Tamale, and Disguy Coolio. Time for Epic, Psy. Everybody's here. Pacific was decent, changed my mind. I don't think I'm going to change your mind, although I am going to critique it rather heavily, because it is a good movie that works and is thin. And we'll come back to that. The other thing that I plan to do today, so here's a friggin', wiki write-up on it, just for something to put in the background. The other thing I plan to do today is actually do some Python coding. Our Python script. How does this look, by the way? Does that... Yeah, that's... You can actually expand that a little bit more. It'll look even nicer if I take you out to about there, and then this little thing. Oh, that's... the OCD kicking in early. I've been writing this Autosplitter for Cluster Truck for quite a while now, and I have sort of lost a bit of steam on the project, but I just realized today that there's a simple adjustment to be made from what I've already done here, where you can see it's outputting splits now in the console, that will get it outputting splits in the, just makeshift for now GUI, where we're able to use it to analyze speedruns. For example, this one from, I think this was an old Wolfie speedrun. Just for the segment of World 4, it's in 720p at 30 frames per second, which means it processes very quickly over a 1080p 60, which the splitter also can do. But it's going through and it's marking all of the places that events are taking place in the speedrun, where it sees that we've left out of the level and into the level complete screen. And then when we leave the level complete screen, the white screen up now, and into the next level, it's marking all of those, and it's racking up the times. And then over here we've got an output that has also just been kind of chucked in there to prove a concept. It's not pretty, it's not well formatted, it doesn't look like it will in the final produce there, but we can take these times and the information that I've built into like this object where the splits data is stored, and we can shove that in here and make it a much more legible and usable unfinished product very easily, I think, today. And then I can release the updates to the code that I haven't pushed down to GitHub yet. So that is also on the docket for me today. I love Python, says this guy Coolio. So do I. So do I. Python is the best language that I've ever coded in. There's a lot of things that you could say about Python and inefficiencies and the, variable declaration space and stuff like that. You can say a lot of bad things about it, but in terms of being what it's supposed to be, which is a language in which to code, it is the most legible, prettiest, most, logical, makes sense language that put in just a couple of things here and there that are like, how have we gone, the history of computing with various programming languages? No one did this before. Python is just a dream to code in. It is lovely. Was Rim Job 2 related? Pacific Rim Job? I didn't see that one. That might have been on a different platform that you were watching that, Rex. How am I doing? Time for Epic? I'm doing good. I'm having a good day. Uh, my sleep schedule is way the hell out of like human schedule, but I'm feeling good. It's working out all right. If I am passing out at 5, 6 a.m. in the morning, which has been the thing, if I'm up at 2 p.m., then okay. And especially because we got so much light now, we're out of the friggin' winter months, I still get a full day out of it. Um, Pawn has zero formal studies or schooling in programming, always impressed. Yeah, yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. High school course, but, every class that I took in programming was like well behind what I already knew because my parents got me a PC, before anybody else had a PC. They got me a PC, $1,200 for, probably a 200 megahertz thing back then, and I had, MS-DOS and Windows 3.1. And I spent most of my time in MS-DOS because there was more programs were released for it, and there was more to do with tinkering with QBasic code and stuff. So by the time I started, I got to high school, and they were like, "All right, we got a class on Visual Basic." I was like, "Yes, sign me up!" And then I came in and just spent the whole class, teaching the people to the left and right of me. Yeah, and then if you do this, so I didn't really pursue the classes because I was already ahead of the classes, and I went to college, and just for a year, and then got the hell out of there. But I went to college and took started some classes in programming, and wouldn't you know, it was the same damn scenario. I mean, if I would have just stuck with it, though, there's a lot of stuff that I could have learned that I don't know, and that would be very, very helpful. If this were going to be my career, but it's really just a hobby. But yeah, the introductory classes were the same damn thing. It was me. I was the unofficial teacher's assistant, as, because they give an assignment, and, we had an hour for the class, and I'd have it done in the first 15 minutes, and just start looking around, and then people would look over and go, "You done? How did you do that?" "I've been trying to," and then I'm over here going, "Okay, well, see, because of this." Mm. I am learning Pawn thanks to Pawn's recommendation. Cool, Ben VOC. And yes, it is incredibly user-friendly and much easier to get started in than any other language I have seen. Isn't it, though? And there's just little subtleties that you appreciate. I mean, just the bare bones concept of, if I expand one of my classes here, that instead of having a whole bunch of brackets and braces and this and that to wrap it in, that, everything is defined by its indentation. So if this is the, class for objects, then this is the initialization function within it, and these are the things that are happening within the initialization function, and it's all communicated to you just by the white space and by the tabbing. And, every programming language that I've interacted before Python is all done with brackets and stuff, and I would do this, so that it was legible for me, but then you'd come upon somebody else's code where they decided, "I don't need that," and they just wrap it all in brackets and shove it all hard to the left, and it's like, I can't read that. Just this little thing of, why do we need brackets? We could just do it with space. With spaces and indentation is, the surface level indication that the people who came up with this language and put it together had some really fucking good ideas, and also had been doing it long enough to know what the issues are when you're working with other people's code, and to build a language that won't allow you to make illegible code. I mean, you can still, if you work hard, you can make your code hard to read, but you have to have it in this formatting, which means, it speaks to you. It's easy on the eyes. Remember that video you made about how to beat the boss on Cluster Truck really fast? I do recall that, yes. And then the pause boost, is that what we're calling it? The pause boost came around and made it so that even in no ability percent, if you're really good at the pause boost, you could do it, in 6 seconds instead of 20. Instead of 22 or something, that the other method. So it was about 2 months that method was the best that we had. I still use it, though, in no ability, because it has greater consistency for me than trying to force a pause boost as soon as you walk into the level. Even though you can try it a number of times, it's still like, I would rather be trying for this other thing that I can do. Oh boy, here we go, says Tier Horror. Hi, Pawn. I did a jumpless run. I saw on the, I've been trolling the Cluster Truck Discord server of the speedrunners at Cluster Truck today, and actually handing out some of what we did from last live stream, some of the routing that we came up with, sharing it with the community. If I can find, in fact, if I just go to Discord and I go to Cluster Truck Discord server, which, by the way, if you want to join the Cluster Truck Discord server for speedrunners, you can get there, speedrun.com/clustertruck, and then under the link to, well, you've got it open because you always have it open, Paul. And the link for resources, resources will show you the Discord group. Click there and you can join the Discord group. But if I just go over to Strat Video's channel and pull these up, so we'll start out with the slower version that we came up with. I'll just let it play. That one, that's the laser I want to go under, not that way, though. Because it's not my usual style. That was kind of just, well, hope this works, because if it doesn't, we're fucked. That's what I want to do. Because that's a half a second time save. And as we do it again, I'll actually, point out what's going on here. So at the beginning, let's take it back to the beginning of one of these runs. So at the beginning, we're coming off and getting a little bit of speed from the first truck there. We do a lev boost there to get more speed. Come off the top of this one, and we're turning to the right and doing kind of a nose grind pop, I guess is what I would call it. But if you just face the truck as you're passing it, while I'm holding, and you can't see because I've got the input overlay up, but in the video, well, I'm holding actually left strafe, so I'm running to the left and forward as I turn my face into this truck. To the right, you get sort of what feels like a magnetic boost when you're running it that fires you up. So we pull one of those off of here. We go up in the air, a little bit of lev in midair in order to get the timing right, because we're going to try and land this truck as he gets to the other side of this laser. We land on that one, another drop-off, run-off, and then we go under the final laser, under the final laser. So boom, boom, under the final laser right there to get out with a 9.3 on that pass. So it's a very consistent low 9 method. And my old method was a 10.0 and above. It was always a low 10. It very rarely dipped into sub 10 times on that method, but that is the full run viable, easy to pull off route. And then the route that we got our IL gold time, our best time ever while we were routing for that, is this one. Under, lev boost, fucking in, that's the one, 8.5. Okay, so let's go back to the beginning and walk you through this one. Instead of doing that little nose grind that we're doing, we come off, get a little bit of speed, lev boost. Yeah, you don't, I'll talk. You don't need to talk here. Lev boost off of this one to make sure we've got the speed. And then, now I told you to fucking mute. I swear I did. There we go. Okay. So, go back. I hate Twitch's player. Go back. All right. So we lev boost here to get speed. Lev boost here, but we go under. That's the truck where we were nose grinding before. Instead of going on the left side and nose grinding it for a pop, we go under the laser to the right of that truck, and then wall grind this truck for a pop that takes us underneath the laser that's right over that one, lands us right on the front truck, and you see how much further ahead we are to those last lasers when we come out of it. And then just go to goal with one more laser pop, and what do we come in with? We come in with an 8.5! 8.5 down from an 8.9. That's what I was waiting on. That's
get out of my space,
what I was waiting on.
Jesus Christ.
Crowd me. It's crowd me over here. All right, fuck off now. But so I've been passing those out. But I did see Lolo posting a link to like a 2-hour jumpless run, 2-hour and something jumpless run, which is, I love those kind of categories. I love coming, when somebody comes up with something that's like, what's this gonna be? But I haven't watched it yet. Not a Cluster Truck stream. This will be extra interesting, says So Karen. No, it's just gonna be incredibly boring. And it says Discord right there. Did it say Discord? It sucks to watch you on mobile. I'm always on a permanent delay. Is it a permanent delay? As long as it's not a choppy, breaky kind of a thing. Hey, who cares? It's fine. It's no big deal. It would be nice if they gave you transcoding, which, because I'm an affiliate and not a partner, they sometimes and sometimes not. But, you know. Hey, Paul, want to hear a pun? Okay. What do you call a fat psychic? A 4-chick. That's a pun, all right. That is technically correct.
Yesterday I scrubbed through your VODs from the last month or so. And the VOD here on Twitch from the 16th scrubs a little slower due to the 10,800 kilobits per second.
I did accidentally do a thing there, didn't I, with the...
If you had lowered the sub goal bar by 1 for every $10 in single donations or cheers since you lowered it to 200, the sub goal bar would now be down at 182.
Well, you know what? I was thinking about doing that. Fuck it. Let's do it now. I didn't even open the stream labels thing, which means these numbers aren't up to date.
Sorry, I meant 181.
Little magnets with the bits, the cheers, and the monies. I was thinking about that. Little magnets, you just bought it for everybody. We'll say that, because I was already thinking about that. I was thinking about dropping it to 180 anyway. So, yeah, that's what we're going to do right here, right now. Just all I got to do is do in there, and then save. Sub-goal count of this to 180, because it seems like 180 is probably a doable thing that we could hit, and 200 is... We were real close last month at some point, and it's been just hard to, you know, because subs expire and come in, and so it's like a balancing act of trying to get it in. But when this updates, there you go, we're down to 180. Thank you so much, Little Magnets, for $12 worth of cheers right there at the beginning of the stream. I'm not even doing anything. So just sitting here. What do we do? What's the point? Why do I do the streams? What do you guys show up for? It's blue shirt pawn versus red shirt pawn. Oh yeah. This is a shirt my dad sent me in the mailses.
Shut up, it's free money.
It is. Thank you so, Karen. All that we see or seem is but a dream within a dream. Poe. And I swear to God, because of like this, I saw this shirt. It was a stack. He sent me a whole bunch of shirts he got. He's living in Florida. And he got a whole bunch of shirts, you know, cheap at, am I thinking of you know, Salvation Army kind of thing, but that's not the words I was thinking of. Anyway, so he sent me a whole stack of them, and I was just flipping through, you know, looking at them, and because of the text here and the font of the, you know, the cutout, this is a military kind of a style of text, a spray painted kind of a thing. And when I saw this, it didn't process with me that Poe meant Edgar Allan. I was thinking POE, and because of the military thing and even the wings on the side, it just like my mind went, what's the the POE? Is that like a veterans group or something? The POE. It sounds like a veterans group, right? POE. It sounds like a lodge that you'd go to. And drink and try and forget the horrors of war or something like that. But yeah, it didn't connect with me. I'm like, you know, it's obviously an Edgar Allan Poe, but just the visual of the text, it just put my brain to a different place. What's an auto splitter? Well, we'll get to that. This is an auto splitter right there. It automatically splits. If I were to open up Live Split, which we usually do for speedrunning, this keeps track of my times as I move through the various worlds in Cluster Truck. And usually what you'd have to do to make this work is you'd have to hit a key on your keypad as you cleared every one of the levels as the timer was running. So the auto splitter, what my auto splitter does is it actually watches the screen, takes screen caps as you're going through at round about 60 frames per second, and analyzes each screen to see if we're on to see what it's seeing, and then it automatically fires splits, and it automatically pauses timing when you're between levels and stuff for IGT. So that's what the Autosplitter does, and we will get to tinkering with this a bit
Personal
later.
outreachy enrichment. Lol.
Personal outreach enrichment. Usually though, like a lodge is like the mighty bears drinking hole, or it's something like that. But POE, the personal outreach enrichment, that's where this comes from. POE, moving around. But yeah, this is the first time I've worn this shirt. Dad sent it from Florida like months ago, and it's the first time I can wear a t-shirt. Not the first time I wore a t-shirt a couple of streams, but one of the first times this frigging year. Got to the middle of May before Michigan got warm enough to wear a goddamn t-shirt. Me open my windows, let some, not just breathing my own emissions back in constantly. It's been nice that the weather has warmed up. I've been forming a relationship with some birds. Lots of birds come around and stuff on my lawn, and when I'm out there and there's nobody looking and stuff, and a bird like starts hopping over and getting close, and I see it like turn and look at me while I'm standing on my porch, I look down at it for a second, and then I go, and I look back at it, and then I keep doing that, and then the bird's like, oh, okay, we're cool, and he starts moving forward and closer, and get a bird without. I've actually had a bird land on my hand, in Puerto Rico, when we went on vacation. There's a picture of me with a pigeon, sitting on. I think it was sitting on my hand or on my shoulder, but it was a public square where people feed the birds all the time, and so they're very familiar with humans, and that's probably how they get fed, is by coming and landing on you and stuff. So it was special for me because I don't think I'd ever have a bird land on my. And I it didn't just happen either. I did kind of like put my hand out and see if it would jump up, and it did. And so I've got a picture of me holding a bird. Very cool. Got up to 98 here in the past few days. Yeah. You don't want to be in this place. Like, I feel I need to get the hell out of Michigan because the cold is, I would rather be sweating than people say you can't take off your skin, but you can always put on a sweater. I would rather be sweating than shivering. I would rather be like way too hot than a little bit cold. That's just my preference. And as we all know,
pigeons equals flying rats.
Yeah, so I was holding a flying rat in my hand, and I got a picture of it. Hey, look at the flying rat! Hey, I got it, me and the rat. No. But what was I saying? Michigan, cold weather and stuff like that. I think that with global warming and everything else, I think the jet stream has moved and is more violently dipping now across the country, and Michigan is right in the fucking, slot of whatever has happened to the jet stream, because, it didn't used to be like this in Michigan. Come here, get closer. It didn't used to be like this in Michigan, It used to be Halloween, you'd put on your costume, and you'd go out, and you'd knock on doors, do the Halloween thing, get candy. Now in Michigan, Halloween, you put on a costume and then a parka and a hat, and depending on your costume, but like October, it's already, late October, it's already like the kids there might be snow on the ground. That's not really accurate, though. It's just really freaking cold, and it stays cold all the way to when you finally get snow. It actually feels colder when there isn't snow, The snow's in the sky, you got great clouds overhead, it traps the heat from the sun between the snow and the clouds overhead. It bounces there, and it actually feels warmer, outside when you've got snow on the ground and cloud cover. And, but Michigan is just like, we get 3 to 4 months of the year where the temperatures are moderate to enjoyable to maybe a little too hot. And then the entire rest of the year is just, I don't want to be here. I don't want to be here for another year. But I probably will be, because the world had to go and have a fucking pandemic, didn't it? The right key, K-I-E, the right Kai, The Right Key or The Right Kai, thank you for the subscription. Having fun today? 2 months. Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm having a good time. And we were just sitting here chatting. I did put that in the description on Twitch, just chatting. So, but we were going to talk about Pacific Rim. I haven't even started in on it. Move to Argentina so you can have a pigeon farm. I mean, based on visiting Puerto Rico, I thought Puerto Rico would be a nice place to stay. And we went there before all of the shit that happened in Puerto Rico and the federal U.S. government basically being like, okay, we're sending ships. They think we're sending ships. Like before everything went to shit in, the U.S. territory of Puerto Rico and the U.S. basically not giving a fuck. Before that happened. But yeah, I have looked at, my top place for where I would be interested in moving is probably Spain. I would love to be in the European Union in the first place. Spain has very reasonable, cost of living, good food, all that I've heard, good food, good people, interesting culture, and, donde es tu biblioteca? I can figure out Spanish is is the easiest language to transfer from English. I mean, if I can, ano ino no namaewa nan desu ka? If I can throw out some Japanese conversationally, then I can throw out some goddamn, Spanish. So Spain, reasonable, moderate temperatures, throughout the year. You're no longer in the, libertarian hellscape of America. I just got that term yesterday from my buddy Greg because we were talking and I turned the term socialist utopia, the way that, that the libertarian and the Republican and the conservative end of things, uses the term pejoratively. Oh, the socialist utopia. I was being funny, and Greg said to me, I'll take the socialist utopia any day over the libertarian hellscape. And I was like, yes, that's beautiful. I'm going to use that. Now I have. But yeah, I would much prefer to be in the European Union and, completely ready and willing to fucking expat, just, I don't think I have the really funds and resources or that they'd want to let me in with health issues. And even if I sold this house, probably got 20 some thousand in this house, that I could get out of this house. I probably got $20,000 in there, and got that, it could, I don't know. But, yeah, I've actually looked also at other South American countries that are, extremely poor, because that's sort of how I built my life. I'm living on 6 Mile in Detroit because I want to, I can do this, and with your, 100 bits, 1,000 bits, and then average Joe comes up in the right corner, or in the left corner there, and gives $101 on, what I earn from Twitch and YouTube and Patreon, what comes in, I can live on that because I live here in a house that I own and don't have a mortgage on. So wherever I move has to be cheap to live.
Find a sponsor in Spain. Anyone in chat live in Spain, anyone. Help a brother out.
Live in Spain, you damn TTS woman. Can you bump the overlay? It looks like it's stuck. It will... Actually, you're right. I could have... Did I close it down? Fucking, I did that. Thank you for bringing that up. Stream labels. It does take a minute to populate, but if I don't have the app open, and it's so easy for me to close it down, I just do it automatically. But if I don't have the... There you go. Boom. Immediately bumped. 150 of 180. Nice round figures. All right. Nobody give me another subscription unless you're going to donate 10. That's completely against my own economic interests. I live in the Netherlands, which isn't that cold. Hang on, infinite vamp. I prefer cold because you can wear more clothes for cold, and you can only take off so many clothes. Yes, that's what almost, that's 90% of the global population probably be on board with that. I am in a minority in saying I would rather sweat. But yeah, I'm just sick of being cold, and the cold does not sit well with me with my myalgic encephalomyelitis, aka chronic fatigue syndrome, aka systemic exertion intolerance disease. It seems to get worse when the weather turns colder and damper and maybe not the day. I don't know. It's very hard to get a sense of it, but the cold, when it's cold outside, it's even worse. It's even worse for me. The biggest issue would be internet speed. Yeah, that's a big thing. That is a big thing. Like I've considered, some time ago, Australia and the Netherlands. The Netherlands? What are you talking? New Zealand. Sorry, ends. It was the end. Australia, New Zealand, and the problem is the quality of the internet out there. From what I have heard, just doesn't quite live up to spec. With even the shitty internet that we're familiar with here in the U.S. And maybe that's changed. Maybe my perception is out of date on that, because I have trouble believing that anyone in the world could have shittier internet. But maybe they have, equal internet or slightly shittier internet, but, they pay a reasonable price for it. Whereas in America, we have shitty internet and we pay twice what everybody else does. Libertarian hellscape. This capitalism will save us all. Here's $120 for television and internet this month. Thank you. Fuck me. I only pay them $60 a month just for the internet. Just for the internet, but I do have a decent package. Actually, I think it's up to 70 now. I get 100 megabits per second plan, and I only get like 20. I only get 20 of your 100 Mbps. And the big thing is, like, if you have 20 and it's down and up and it's equal, it's probably not that bad. But, over here, everything's advertised with like 1,000 megabits, you get just massive bandwidth, and that's your download bandwidth. 250 megs per second is, I think, what they're doing now, or what they're selling Comcast, and that's your download. What's the upload? Because I'm paying $70 a month to have, I think, it's either 12 or it's 20 up. This is the fucking libertarian hellscape. And I like that term. It's just capitalism is really, but I'm using that term a lot because I really like it. I get 20 download and 5 up. Yeah, I had to pay extra for just an internet package in order to have the kind of up that I, want and that I require in order to do this at reasonable bandwidth. We're pumping out a little over 5 megs of, stream right now going up. So I need some friggin' bandwidth on this. And this is just 1080p, and people are starting to do it in 4K, which I've never done. I'll be 1080p until 4K is absolutely necessary. Who needs friggin' 4K, man? We already have problems with people being able to watch at 1080p because you don't have the good bandwidth where you are to download a 60 frame per second, 5 meg per second deal. So Pacific Rim. I did want to talk about it. So I watched it for the first time last night. What do I have to say about that? We've been here for 35 minutes. I haven't said a single word about Pacific Rim. So, where do you start? You start with, I think it's a good movie. It is a good movie, and it gets it done. It works. And for the scale of what they were trying to do with Pacific Rim, just making the film work is significant. They crammed a lot of characters, a lot of content, a lot of world building, a lot of backstory and character development and plot arcs and character arcs. They crammed a lot of it in to, how long was this thing? Because it didn't... 132 minutes. Okay, it's over 2 hours, and it felt short for what it was. So they kept it tight, they kept it packed. Honestly, I want another 20 minutes on this film. And it's already over 2 hours. And I think this film needs another 20 minutes and probably another $80 million in a few more special effects scenes in order to, be completely fleshed out. But the fact that they managed to, bring Neon Genesis Evangelion version and Jaegers and friggin' come on, brain, come on, with the giant monsters and, Godzilla is it's probably right here, kaijus and Jaegers to, popular, global, audience and be successful with it and have a fun summer action kind of a film out of, these tropes that have existed so long in anime, is incredible that they managed to pull it off. That said, it is thin. It is thin. Jack my rich up. Jack my rich up! Thank you for the subscription. Jack my rich up! It is thin. I think it's thin. They get a lot done. They have to move through a lot of character arcs.
You want another 20 minutes? Go watch 20 minutes of trailers. There is a sequel that came out a few years after, I believe.
Yeah, it looks like there's a lot, actually, of spin-off content. When I was looking for Pacific Rim, I came upon, Netflix, under the same name. Pacific Rim seems to have a episodic series anime that they're running under the name Pacific Rim. There's Atlantic Rim is another movie. Rex brought up earlier Pacific Rim Job, which I haven't seen, and I think it's on a completely different platform. But, it's out there. It probably is out there. But yeah, this it's thin. The thinnest part, I would say, is with the character, was it Mako? The, Japanese female lead. Let's see, who would it be played by? Rinko Kikuchi. Rinko Kikuchi. Kikuchi. You would put and it would be Kikuchi. No. Rinko Kikuchi is probably, because every other name in this list that I'm looking at, and you can't see because it's behind chat, is not Japanese, and she's clearly Japanese. But yeah, her character, we spend a lot of time with her character coming and going, but we are really fucking stapled to the buttocks of the leading male character. I don't remember the names of characters very well, nor actors or anything like that. We are stapled to him. We perceive her through him most of the time. We rarely get into her real space, and they do a little bit of that in various scenes where they're in the bunks, they're in the military bunks, and they're across from each other, and we get into her space. But her, what we see of her in her space is her looking out at him. It's everything revolves around that male lead character, and for how important her, character is to the story, I feel like we never got into her personal space. And if I'm, going to be really honest here, I think this is my perspective from the outside. I have no idea, but based on what I saw, what was there, what wasn't there, I think that Rinko Kikuchi probably just didn't have the acting chops. At least in this performance, she wasn't bringing it. That's my guess, because I watched that movie, and there were a number of times where I'm looking and saying, they're cutting around something, and what they were cutting around, I think, was that she didn't have it. I felt like we needed another 2 minutes at least, just spread throughout the film, of just close in her space, tight shots of the face, get us really in her headspace. Even if she's going to be a character who doesn't speak much, that's fine. That can be the character that you've written, that can be the character on the page and who we're working with. But that doesn't mean that she shouldn't speak in the film. You can put her voice in the celluloid, in the digital format of compressed video. You can put it in the film, through the language of visuals, and I felt the whole film was wanting for that. There is a scene in particular that makes me think that maybe it was Rinko's performance that they had to edit around, and again, just a guess, but there's a scene where she has, a single teardrop in an emotionally strong moment, and the way that they cut that is so tight that it feels like somebody had to come in and squirt a little drop of saline onto her eye and then jump out of the frame, and then they cut to it as it falls down because like there's no build up, and it could just be it might not be her fault. It could just be in editing. It could be that and the editing could be, you could point at studio people saying we need this to be shorter, we need this to be tighter, we can't have a 3-hour long movie of this type in theaters because the theaters want to show a movie, get everybody out, and show another movie because that's how they make their fucking money. So it's, it could be that they were trying to cut tighter and tighter and tighter, and so maybe they just lost a bunch of her good performances. But from the outside, I would guess that they were editing around a lackluster, conveyance of emotion on screen from Rinko. That's my guess. But that said, like, the thinness does tend to center around that character, even where, I wouldn't assign it to her. So this is a film where we've got the, old hat who's been piloting these giant mechas, these Jaegers, these Neon Genesis Haven, these Jaegers, who's coming back, who's called back to duty under the circumstances, and then we've got Mako. Is it Mako? Yes, Mako Mori, and it's Rally. Mako Mori. So we've got Mako coming in as the junior, as the one who, bright promising, but, he's been through the shit, he's been unseen, he's gone through the wars, he knows, he's suffered, and he's combat and he's gristled. And she's coming in as a new recruit with, lots of potential, and what needs to happen in a film like that, where you've got, someone who's been there and someone who's coming around, is the passing of the reins scene, where it's not necessarily that the reins are passed and that, your main character that's grizzled and been through all this shit is, no longer around. It's just a passing of the reins, but it's that emotional, evocation of the moment where Mako's character comes into her own. And they have that in this movie with the those two characters, Mako and the male lead. How much time we spend there, and he's just like talking to her and talking her through it, and it's fair. It's fair because of the scenario. She's new to this. This is her first, and she's coming in a completely untenable situation. So he's trying to keep her with it, and it's fair that she would also be deferent to his authority there. It's all very reasonable. But we spend so much time with that, and her saying absolutely goddamn nothing, and also like that's all fair, but also we don't get up in her personal space, which is all that really is needed there. You can have a character who is mostly silent as long as you come to them, you get those close-up shots, you see their emotional responses, you see their experience, as opposed to making them a conduit of the main character's perspective. And in this instance, we're talking about a white male character and a Japanese woman, and it just doesn't play very great that she's quiet and subservient, and we don't even get into her emotional space and see what she's going through, and he's over there with his brash fucking American shouting, "Hang on, Mako, you're doing great," and that kind of shit. It's fine. It's fine. It makes sense in the scenario and everything, but we need to get up in Mako's grill. We need to be there. And experiencing things through her eyes. And I feel like the movie is thin there on Mako. It keeps us in his realm as opposed to, allowing us to be in her realm. And they have that passing of the reins moment in this film where Mako, who we've learned a backstory that's tragic, and her family was, killed from the kaijus, she has this moment where she's got something that we've never seen before on her side of the Jaeger, of the giant robot that they're piloting. She's got a chainsword that, whips out and snaps together and that kind of thing. So they have an epic moment of revealing a new weapon, and then they cut to her real quick, and she says, "For my parents," and then she fucking slices the thing in half. And so they have that moment, but the way they get to that moment is so jarringly sudden. You know, it's in a passing of the reins moment, you want our strong, grizzled character who's seen it all, been through it all before, to be on their back heel, maybe not quite sure what to do, and then our newbie, our rookie who's coming in, who's going to take the reins, you know, thinks outside the box, comes up with something, you know, and something special, and then that's the passing of the reins moment, is where the old dog learns a new trick from the rookie. And in this moment, you just don't get that. You know, like, they did it technically. It's on the page, but it's not there in the emotional subtext. It doesn't build to it the way that I would want it to. And also, it's kind of not even there in the page, because what she does is just, you know, it's kind of a cheat. Here's a thing that we didn't show you before, which is cool. You know, it creates a cool moment. And she pulls out a fucking sword that she didn't know she had, fucking slices the thing in half. So, you know, again, this is, all of my critique comes back to, it works. You know, they made this movie work. And for what it is, as long as it is, I'm shocked that it's 132 minutes long, because it didn't feel that long. They make Pacific Rim work, but thinly. You know, they're rushing at 2 hours worth of, you know, probably credits roll for 12 minutes. So about 2 hours worth of on-screen footage. They are rushing this shit. And it's a big job and a big world that they decided to create, and a lot of different characters. And they wrote the characters very well, too, knowing that they were going to do this. That they were going to have this, you know, large of a world and so many characters to introduce you to. I feel they made a very good choice on introducing our two scientists as just, you know, vaudevillian, way out there, like, really extreme personalities who completely, both of them are an exaggerated hyperbole put on screen of what they're supposed to be, and I think that's a good thing. You know, the fact that they went over the top with those characters, wrote them over the top, cast them over the top, and directed them over the top is exactly what you need to do, because if these characters are going to be in any way significant or important, given how little screen time they're going to get, they have to be fucking memorable. So you need, you know, vaudeville-style, over-the-top performances there. So they did that. And, you know, they made it work, and it does work, and it's a good movie, and it's a fun movie, and by the end it feels like a summer action flick, and it feels thin. It feels thin. It's good, it's fun, and it's thin. And most of it has to do with Mako. Also, as we approach the ending, and this does come back to Mako again, is, the ending is rushed. The ending feels like you have run out of budget and you have run out of time, and we can't, you know, do any more of these massive 3D fight sequences. We just don't have the budget for it, so we're going to have to cut from here to here when it really needs like 3 or 4 more shots between it. We just need to slam to boom from here to here. I also had, here's another thing that I could add in before I go forward. I watched this 720p and in full frame on my television, on my 720p television in the living room. So I'm going to say that in that version that I watched, there's some Michael Bay-style framing where it's all so big that it's too big for the frame and you don't know what you're looking at while you're looking at it. There are certain scenes. It's definitely not as bad as you know, Transformers Michael Bay, where it's like, what the fuck is even going on screen? But I did have some moments where I literally, because I'm watching it, you know, in the privacy, I can rewind the video. I tapped back a couple of frames and tried to look again. No? All right, well, I'll take your word for it. I don't know what's going on there. But the end sequence is a little bit rushed, and I don't feel that the weight of the scenario is really there. You know, it works out a little bit. It's like and now we got to wrap it all up kind of an ending, because we've got this scenario where at the end of the film, obviously, I don't feel like it's any spoilers for anyone who hasn't seen it. Obviously, in a film like this, you know, there's a final boss fight, and the final boss is going to be bigger and harder and more difficult than everything before it. And we've gone from, like, there were, 4 Jaegers fighting 2 little guys on land, to now there are 2 Jaegers fighting 2, and not little guys, but 2 of like their new regular sized kaiju, plus one who's new, massive, on a whole nother scale. We've never seen this before. Oh my god, level 5 kaiju with 2 level 4s, and the fight takes place underwater, where these kaiju are clearly like in their fucking element and made to swim and move fast and shit. And we've got 2 of these Jaegers, and they lose, okay? Definitively lose, which absolutely has to happen in that scenario, but they manage to, like, complete the mission in the process. And there are losses, but I don't feel the fucking weight of the losses is enough, and I don't feel what they managed to do to defeat the 3 beasts, is enough work. They don't have to, like... This is where I think it comes down to budget and time, that there needed to be 3 or 4 scenes between a lot of the cuts that I saw, and there needed to be a bigger build and maybe more of a sacrifice of a piece of the Jaeger in order to, and things are going wronger and wronger. They had already done that once in the film, in the beginning, in the first fight, and they should have come back to it and done more of it. I mean, there's sacrifices, there's on both sides, but there's definitely sacrifices made here of both human life and the Jaegers themselves, the war material. But it just doesn't feel like enough, considering that it's 2 on 3, and one of them is the biggest fucking thing they've ever seen, and they just kind of unceremoniously kill the biggest fucking thing they've ever seen. I mean, it happens very quickly. At least it feels that way while you're watching the film. So there's that, and then again, with the ending, and spoilers for a film that came out in 2013 that's had a whole bunch of spin-offs and everything, I think we're going to get into some serious spoilers here, because, and again, it's kind of something you can see coming, if just based on this kind of, just based on any kind of action movie, really. But there is a moment of self-sacrifice by our, leading male American man character, in order to save Mako, and that is completely undercut by the fact that our leading male character then also escapes himself. So that's the biggest spoiler that I'm going to give you right there, is that, it's a summer action movie, and at the end the good guys win. I'm sorry for giving that away, that spoiler, but at the end, the good guys win, and the characters you most, who are your point of view characters and that you most have affinity for by the end of the movie, they survive. Sorry, I didn't... big spoiler there. But what they do with the self-sacrifice moment of our main character, like, Mako is running out of she needs, and so he gives her his own, and I'm trying to avoid specific spoilers for anyone who hasn't seen, who's watching, but he takes something from him and gives it to her so that she can survive, and then makes sure that she gets out alive, and then he's supposed to go down with the ship and save the day and all that kind of stuff, but at the end he manages to struggle his way onto, and he escapes as well. And then there's the big moment at the end where, is he alive? Is he dead? Is he alive? Is he dead? And then, of course, he's fucking alive, because it's a summer action movie. I would have respected the movie a lot more if they would have killed the main character. I feel like they would have set up Mako's character for the second film, for like a sequel, like perfectly, if they had done that, because this would have been a woman who has, she was making a bond and a connection, potentially romantically. It's a very rushed, movie, but they start to do that right at the end. There's at least one scene where, our manly man American turns and suggests to her that, he'd like to ask her out on a date if we survive this kind of a thing. It would have set up, it would have just written the second film, if her character loses, that would have been basically all of the important people in her life by the end of this film. And I know that would have been sort of counter to what the film is trying to do, because this came out 2013, filmmaking generally was all dark and grizzled, and fucking Batman's a goddamn psychopath, and Superman's, snapping necks and shit like that, and they made a summer action movie that, you know, builds a fucking world, sci-fi, comic booky, you know, anime, manga kind of a thing going on here, and they made it, you know, so that at the beginning, the good guys are on their back heel, and as we get to the end, they've, you know, it's a positive ending in the midst of a era of filmmaking where everything wants to be so gritty and realistic, and the good guys should die and the bad guys blah, 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 blah. So, you know, I fault it. I don't fault it for giving us the happy ending, but I also can't say that, you know, I have to acknowledge that I would have been happier as a viewer and had more want to come back and see the sequel if they would have let the main character die at the end. Also because he's kind of just, you know, American male bravado, just, you know, inject the plastic into the mold and then, you know, knock it out and G.I. Joe! You know, that's what you got. I didn't have any particular affinity for this guy by the end of the film, and I would have been fine with seeing him die, and would have been happy seeing Mako live, and then knowing that we could come back to Mako in the next film, and, you know, she would now be, you know, time has passed, she's in charge of a, you know, being rebuilt Jaeger program, or, you know, she's the top pilot, and she's fucking dark, and she has to, like, face these demons of losing everybody around her and that kind of a thing, that would have been a fucking, you know, it writes itself. That said, I can't simultaneously say that's how you should have ended it, and also suspect that the actress playing Mako, Rinko Kikuchi, probably didn't give them the performances on film that they wanted. Because just looking at the various different cuts, that's my suspicion, is that she just wasn't. So now we're going to make her into the main character. So who knows? You know, the internal politics of making a film, depending on, you know, who's in a role and how much you've filmed and whether or not you can get what you want from them and whether or not you want to work with them again. Like, you can change fucking scripts. You could decide to rewrite it because we can't, you know, we don't want to drag things into the next production that weren't working on this production, that kind of a thing. So who knows? And again, I do want to, like, point out that I am just guessing Rinko Rinko Kikuchi, and it's not, you don't trill the R. But that, you know, it's my guess that her performances weren't what they wanted, and a lot of it ended up on the editing room floor, because it is either that or it is, you know, poor production somewhere in the line. It's either that the director, you know, Guillermo del Toro, didn't, like, see that he needed to give more screen time to the you know, lead heroine in this film in order to, like, create the fucking emotional context by which everything else was going to rely as the film goes on, that either he wasn't there with it wasn't there in the screenplay, or it was there, but then, you know, the studio said, well, we got to cut it down, we need it to be trimmer, you know, what can you drop? But something happened at some point, because it doesn't work right, and all you needed for it was a couple of, like, close-up shots and getting into her personal space, you know, during the fight, during the last sequences. Make her important while we're fighting, because she's very attacked on just a body in the room whenever they're fighting. You know, when they're in the base, she's a character, she has a reality, and she's, you know, she has a life, and it's very important. And then as soon as we're out of the base and we're in war, it's all about, you know, she only exists as a finger pointing at the, you know, white male lead guy who's in charge of everything, and it just doesn't feel quite right. Movies of July 2013. What else was coming out? Let's see, Gervasian. Let's find out what else was going on. July 2013. Kevin Hart, Let Me Explain, A Girl and a Gun, Big Star, Nothing Can... Despicable Me 2, The Lone Ranger, The Lone fucking Ranger. I say because I've heard things. No, you can't know my location. Because I've heard how bad that was. I never saw it, but, yeah. Absence, Just Like a Woman, Stuck in Love, Hammer of the Gods, Despicable Me 2, The Way, Way Back, Stuck in Love, The Way, Way Back, The Look of Love, Stuck in Love, The Look of Love, Sharknado. Hey, Sharknado was coming out, too. Pacific Rim, Viola, Fruitvale Station, Grown Ups 2. We've just been living in an era of filmmaking where everything wants to be gritty and real and hardcore and I give Pacific Rim credit for having decided mindfully, no, we're going to make a summer fun action movie. You're not going to see a whole bunch of people killed. We're going to, talk about a whole bunch of people being killed. We're going to knock down buildings. We're not going to, fucking show people being crushed to death that much anyway. And at the end, the good guys are going to win and your heroes are going to live. I like that, and I like that they're building a franchise. They built something here that they could use as a platform to jump off of, and so they're introducing this world in a language of film and in a style of film and with an emotional context of film that will appeal to the broadest audience. So, again, my entire review of this film, my entire perspective on this film is that they made it work, and that's incredible. 2 hours, and it felt like it needed another 20 minutes. So there's a lot of fucking movie there. They made it work. It felt quick. It did not feel like it was as long as it needed to be. I wanted it to be longer. And they did create something that brought, these long-standing anime and just animation and these long-standing concepts into a broader Western inclusive global thought space and entertainment space. And that's a very hard thing to do, and they introduced a shit ton of characters, a shit ton of premises, a shit ton of ideas, and they just hit them and moved, and hit them and moved, and hit them and moved, Go see a fucking Batman movie, a Spider-Man movie, you just spend the first hour of the film. Oh, yeah, it's the backstory we've seen 3 times before. Oh, fucking mommy. Oh, Martha. Oh, Uncle Ben. And you gotta do all that shit. These guys are introducing completely new concepts to an unfamiliar audience. They put it on screen, they communicate it soundly and clearly, and then they fucking move on. They don't drag it around. They're just like, that's how it is. Here's a basic, idea of why it is, and now we're fucking moving on. You got questions about it? Figure it out in the fan forums. We don't give a shit. You guys can write that part. We're moving on. So I absolutely respect them for making it happen and for bringing this out there and for apparently creating a pretty big, an expansive franchise off of Pacific Rim because it's interesting. But yeah, I can list a lot of complaints, mostly around the characterization of Mako, a little bit around the video framing and cinematography of, a little bit too much Michael Bay stuff. I mean, it's way better than Michael Bay. They do get far and wide after they've introduced the scale of these things, because you're going to do that. You're going to do the shots that are so close that you can't even see what's going on. But when you're in the middle of a fight, shot that's so close, I'm like, what am I looking at? Where's the end of the kaiju and the beginning of the Jaeger? You fucked up as a filmmaker. Whoever's doing that graphic design, I don't think it, that's an error. That's not well, you got to do that in order to establish, no. If I can't read what's going on screen. That said, again, I'm going to say, I watched it on, a 16:9 television in 720p full frame, which implies that there was a little bit more to the left and right, and maybe it would have been more legible on the big screen. This is a movie that really wanted to be seen on the big screen. I'll tell you that. And I didn't get to see it on a big screen. And so I can only criticize, what I am able to see on my 16:9 720p TV so much, with any accuracy. It might be that those shots actually do work when you're sitting in the cinema. But then again, you can also say, hey, this thing's gonna go to fucking print in, on DVDs, and people's televisions are 1080p, and... but yeah, good movie, thin. But most importantly, they made it work. I think it was good. And what do you say? It tanked. You're saying that, did Pacific Rim tank in theaters? It didn't, get the love that it was supposed to have? Because, they managed to expand it and go out, and create more off of it. And I would think that if it did tank in America, it probably did pretty fucking well across Asia, where these concepts are more, out there. more common, and maybe even in the Indian market. Let's see, a worldwide total of 411 million, 114 million in China alone, its largest market, becoming Del Toro's most commercially successful film to date. I wonder how much it cost to make if they only grossed 411, and the other thing is it earned a worldwide total. Do you mean just in showings, or is that everything? Because, either way, 411 for a project of this scale. Budget 180 to 200. Okay, there it is. I can get that on screen for you guys. Budget 180 to 200, 411 million. I mean, that's a success, doubling your money. I'm surprised that they got it done for 200 million. The scale of everything and the sheer amount of 3D work that had to go into it. There's a scene in this film where you walk into this big hangar, and our main character, of course, walks to exactly the dead center of the fucking logo on the ground. It's everything that it's supposed to be in these films. And he walks out there, and I was like looking at that scene, and I really wanted to know, what my eyes wanted to see the blue screen set. They wanted to see, was there anything real to this? Because I always love it when they manage to do like in location green screening.
Believe me, I have worked in the movie theater business for 28 years, and one of the complaints of this movie, if I recall, was they can't tell what was happening. The movie came out of nowhere and it didn't sell out on performances.
Damn, she is angry, and she is, speaking your perspective. It didn't sell out on performances. Okay. I felt like there were a number of scenes where I was like, I can't really tell what's going on, but I didn't feel like it was as bad as a Michael Bay Transformers, as the first Transformers movie. There were certain shots where I'm like, huh? There was even a line in this movie that I played over like 3 or 4 times because it seemed like an important line. I couldn't tell what the fucking actor was saying. But I didn't feel like it was as bad. They did pull out shots. They did establishing shots for the size of these things and when they were fighting. But yeah, there were definitely moments where I was like, okay, so there's a fight going on. And that doesn't help either with the whole lack of emotional closeness and just connection between viewer and the character Mako in the fights, because you're not really connected with her, and then also you're just guessing at what's going on with the fight, and then something happens and you go, oh, I see the sword, and yeah, it's splitting up. Okay, so then yeah, they cut it in half. The sort of rushed, we're out of 3D budget for this, take what we've got and print it kind of feel of the end of the movie, along with the lack of strong emotional bonds with this, one equally important character to our main character, I feel, and far more interesting character, at least on the page in the writing. Like, I see that she's a way more interesting character. It doesn't come together for a great end, for a great close, and then especially in that it sort of undercuts its own biggest, like, weightiest emotional, and then he dies, but he didn't. It's fine, the sacrifice of. I mean, I actually have complained.
I think they got behind on the special effects, and the results was, let us just throw this together with what we got.
I can see that. I think they got to the end of budget and time on, it's just a lot. It's a huge amount of fucking 3D work that goes into this thing. And it wasn't a pre-established, property that people want to throw a bunch of money and time into because they know it's going to win. They know it's going to make a bunch of money. So yeah, I can absolutely see that. I would agree with that from the outside, just guessing at how this went down. But yeah, I've complained about, I'm sitting here sort of complaining about the ending of this movie because the sacrifices that are made at the end of this movie that make us like, yeah, he's doing the right thing. He's got to die, but he did the right thing. He saved her. They're all undercut by the fact that he doesn't die. He should have died. There shouldn't have been any way out for him, and then the sacrifices mean something and don't have. I have similarly complained. I am in a very rare group here about Guardians of the Galaxy 2, which I didn't like as much as Guardians 1. And I see all of the gears turning. I know what they're doing. I get what's going on there. It doesn't connect with me the way it connects with other people. I have a theory about why. But I've complained about Guardians of the Galaxy 2 in that in the introduction of the concept that our main character in that film, Star-Lord is one of the names, it turns out is he's got... Guardians 2. Am I spoiling something here? Should I, what they establish in Guardians 2 with him and who and what he is due to his father, really sweeps the legs out of the end of Guardians 1. Guardians 1 requires, all of these people who have been working together and developing relationships, but they've been at each other's throats and then alternately working together, and we got to come together and pull this off, and then everybody at the end is like making a noble, probably sacrifice in order to finish everything out, in order to give Star-Lord the strength to, they're going to be a part of this, whether it's good or for bad. And then Guardians 2 establishes that if none of them would have done anything, he still would have been fine. And it doesn't undercut, the experience of seeing the film, doesn't undercut the emotional, the bonds and everything that they're doing with the characters. That's all still there. But when you, as is done in, what's this movie we're talking about again? Pacific Rim here. When you have a character make a noble sacrifice and then they don't pay any price for their noble sacrifice, it's not a noble sacrifice. It's not a sacrifice at all. It's just doing the right thing, and then it all works out in the end. And when you present on screen, framing around something like it's a noble sacrifice, and, oh, he's doing the thing, and then everybody starts to tear up. They're like, oh, but she's gonna get out. Oh, he must be. And then a couple of minutes later, it's like, and everybody's okay. It's like, what? Bitch, you got me. I was starting to tear up over here. You can't do that. You can't just say then there's no fucking consequence, the noble sacrifice, but there was no sacrifice because he's fine, she's fine, everything's fine, fucking sun comes up the next day. It's not a sacrifice anymore. You can't do the sacrifice scene if there's no fucking sacrifice. And, it sweeps the legs on that at the end of Pacific Rim. And I feel Guardians 2, it's just that's a nitpicky thing that Guardians 2 kind of, in retrospect, you see Guardians 2 and then you go back and watch Guardians 1 again and go, oh, I mean, that's nice and everything that they're doing that, but he didn't need their help because of what Guardians 2 established. But this has been fun talking about Pacific Rim. I apparently had a lot of opinions coming off of it. Again, thought it was a good movie. It worked. Enjoyed watching it. Fun summer action kind of thing, but thin. And I have serious doubts that the sequels and spin-offs would... I'd be curious to see the Netflix anime, though, because, if you're doing a series based around this, I mean, it's all been done before. That was the thing about this, is that it was taking everything that had already been done in, Japanese artistry and in manga and anime and that kind of stuff, and even live-action television, and bringing it to a major film audience in a way that was, very true to the source content, to the source, the kaiju movies and fucking big robots and, all of that stuff out there. So to then take that movie and then go back to the anime is like, you're just retreading the same ground. But you could do a lot more with it in an anime, so I'd be slightly curious. I'd give it an episode or two to see if it grabs me. But I would have my doubts as to whether the spin-offs were going to be any good. I guess I'm interested enough to see one, Pacific Rim, Atlantic Rim, rim job to the Pacificing. But I think that brings us to the end of my Pacific Rim spiel. It was fun. It was fun. You know? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Like, comment, and subscribe. And do you think? Are my, you know, from what you saw of the thing, of the film, you know, where did you stand on exiting this film? Did you think it was fun? Did you think it was good? Or were you going, God, what even fucking happened? You know, I couldn't hear some of the lines. I couldn't see what the fuck was going on. It felt really rushed, even though it was 2 hours long. Like, where did you stand?
Ronan on.
Ronan on. We need an image. We need an image of an awning with my, and that needs to, and then I can make that into a into an emote or something like that. I forgot the plot, says Aiden. Oh, that's where did you, like, especially with my criticisms of, like, the Mako character, I feel like there was so much more to be done with her. We could have gotten way deeper into her space, into her head, had more of an emotional bond with her, and then if the movie would have ended, you know, differently, if it would have ended on, you know, a positive note. We saved the world, and the one guy's sacrifice was an actual sacrifice, and he died to do it, but he saved everyone in order to do it. It would have been a better film, although it would have been maybe a little bit of a kick in the dick when you're walking out of the theater, but I think it also would have left you going, I want to see more. You know, on those heads, anybody got any thoughts to throw back at me? Because what we're going to do is I'm going to go to a live stream break, 7-minute live stream break. We've been here for an hour and 20 minutes, just chatting. That's the category I chose for today's live stream. So we're going to go to a live stream break, 7 minutes. When we come back, I'm going to start doing some Python programming. But if you got any thoughts of your own on the on Pacific Rim, you know, especially in relation to how you felt about Mako and what you think you saw and think you didn't see enough of, or, you know, where it could have been padded out, or where, whatever your thoughts are, let me know, and we will look at them when we come back from this 7-minute live stream break. Pawn not out. Jesus Christ, this man just keeps talking.
Next level.
Welcome back. I am the Ronan Pawn. Welcome back to the twitch.tv/Ronan Pawn live stream you're watching. I love it when I come back and the music is just ending, even if it's a minute early on the live stream break. Oh my god, Twitch, I don't care about the damned latest Samsung phone. Well, tell us all about it. Oh, thank you, Aiden, for the host. And Dramatian said, we were talking Pacific Rim, said it is a movie where they had a big grand idea, but they didn't know how to write it. And Aiden says it is a movie where they wanted to have a big grand idea, but they didn't know how to have it. It is, like, here's the thing. I feel like it smacks of Starship Troopers, too, which I love. I fucking love that film. But, you know, it's the bright color camp, like, fuck it, shorthand movie, let's just fucking do it, you know, kind of mentality that it benefits from and works against it. You know, it has it, and it's nice that it's there, and then it's also kind of, you know, there's everything that happens in the movie ends up being a kind of it was for its own sake thing by the end. You know, there's a conflict between these two, and then there's a fight, and then they, you know, and they come to mutual respect when so-and-so does this and that and the other thing, and then by the end, everybody who kind of mattered died anyway. You know, it's, but there's one thing that occurred to me during the live stream make that I wanted to say in here, because it's sort of it's very me to point this out. One of the things that actually bothered me and was a nuisance to my eye in watching this film was when we did get up close with, you know, close-up shots, you know, facial expression shots of Mako, was the fucking blue dyed tips just on the inside of her hair, just a little bit at the bottom, and my eye kept going, is that supposed to be light glowing from below, or is that, no, it's in every fucking scene, and it's not, there's no, they dyed her tips, just the tips, too, just on the inside, just a little bit of flare, and I gotta say, it's fucking cute, you know, it's attractive, it's very cute. And it's also the wrong thing to fucking do with that character. Like, don't fucking die. I cannot imagine Mako sitting in her military bunk applying do you know how hard it is to get Asian hair to take color? Do you have any fucking idea? My mother's a hairdresser, goddammit. She used to describe cutting Asian hair as though you are cutting glass. It is a fucking solid, thick strand that, you know, you cut is how you cut, and then when you go to cut, it is thick shit that does not want to take color. It is black as the fucking night, and you have to bleach the fuck. You gotta apply some stringent goddamn chemicals to get the black out so that you can then put a color into it. I do not see Mako sitting around or going to the fucking hairdresser because she wants her tips to be fucking neon blue. And what occurred to me is that there's a brilliant idea in there, because Mako in the film has, you know, her sort of origin story, her origin event of why she is where she is and why she's doing what she's doing is, you know, a kaiju attack when she is a child, when she is 6 years old or less, and her parents are gone. And she's running through the city as a kaiju is attacking and all that kind of shit. Here's what you do with your fucking frosted blue tips, okay? They also introduced the idea that the kaiju's blood, basically, is this neon blue material. It's kaiju blue. And maybe they're trying to insinuate something there with the kaiju blue, the tips there. What you do is you give her, if you want to do something with her fucking hair that's cute and puts a little color in there, you give her one, like, strand fucking rogue, you know, X-Men rogue style, of, you know, something there that's just that neon blue. And throughout the film, I would still be sitting there going, I don't see this woman going out and doing that. I don't think it works with the character. God damn it, why did you fucking do that? And then, in the scenes where she's a child, and there's a kaiju fight happening, and her parents are killed, apparently that all happens off screen, you know, the viscera of the fight flies and hits her, and there's a splotch along her head. And then from there, you just leave it there. Because from there, the viewer can either decide to believe that there's some kind of mystical, hey, it's a science fiction-y kind of a film, that it, now that hair just grows that color, or they could think that, okay, maybe Mako actually does dye her hair blue there in remembrance. Maybe that's why it's such a clean strip that's, it's nicely put, framed on her face, is because she puts it there as a remembrance of, so she looks in the mirror and sees the same fucking stain of kaiju blue blood in her hair every day, reminding her why she's fucking working so hard and why she's here and what she wants to fucking do. Huh? Oh my god, character has a shit ton of depth, and all we did was change how we dyed her hair and add one scene. But instead, they just frosted her fucking tips with this neon blue, and it works against it, because now I gotta imagine Mako fucking, going back to her bunk and sitting there with fucking, tin foil around the things while she's applying really harsh fucking bleach chemicals and trying not to breathe them in, and then she finally gets done with that, and now it's just white there, and then she comes back. Either that, or I gotta believe that every day she wakes up, and because she likes it, she pulls out like a one of those spray cans of blue tint, and it's neither of these work for the fucking film. Don't do that. Care about how think about how your character should look based on who they are, what they would do, how they appear tells the story. And I think they just frosted her tips blue because, it was cute, because it is cute, it's very sexy. I like it. But it doesn't work for the fucking character. Let's see. It is technically also glass, Gohan says, for Asian hair. Napon, she had whole scalp electro depilation, and then got implants. Well, if it's just the tips, yeah, spray can works. Yeah, you could absolutely do that. So we have to either imagine that this character wakes up in the morning every morning and is like, okay, let me put the makeup on and the everything, and then... Yeah, and then she gets out like one of those little plastic things so that you can not get any on the area you don't want, because she just wants the corner tip of it. Okay, and then... Okay, now I'm going to go out and fight the kaiju to avenge my fallen parents. It doesn't work as well, does it? But you could have made that. You could have made that little splash of blue in her hair be like a fucking thing. It could have been a character fucking thing. Huh? You didn't. It's fine, Like I say, I respect it because it works. Because they actually took all of those premises, crammed them down your throat in the course of 2 hours, and it does hold together as a fun, enjoyable action movie to watch that, has some emotional hits, makes you clench up a little bit, but that in any, intellectual, review... outside of the experience of seeing the movie, or even just in the moments after you clench up a little bit, you're all sitting there going, but it's bullshit. I mean, come on. There's no fucking sacrifice. You can't do a fucking epic, noble sacrifice and not have a sacrifice. You stop doing that, films. You can do the turnabout sacrifice, and then the sacrifice that's tried to be made actually turns out being the other person's sacrifice, that kind of thing, but there's gotta be a fucking sacrifice, or else don't set up the fucking sacrifice scene, because, for the, payoff of that moment's worth of the character going, oh, that is that fucking noble sacrifice, then you've got the viewer, just a couple of minutes after that going, it didn't count. It didn't fucking count. You made me feel something and you decided to unwrite it. I fucker. I feel betrayed. It works perfectly with Women Are Crazy, says Kenneth. I honestly kind of feel like, if I were to do an analysis with a mind, of that movie with a mind for feminism, I would say that the people who wrote this movie, don't have a good idea about... They needed some women with a hand in the script. Because, Mako is underdeveloped, she... Everything that is part of her character is received from a fucking man. Every scene where she's important in relationship, in as it reflects upon a man who's actually important, and then she's there and she's part of his thing, and it's like, Stop it. Stop it, Hollywood. Get some fucking women, just man writes the whole fucking screenplay. Here's an idea. Pass it by someone with some ovaries and just see if they want to tweak it a little bit. Because it would be very helpful. It would be helpful for me. I don't like one-dimensional, female characters, even if they've got blue fucking frosted tips. It doesn't, Gohan, thank you for the subscription. That is 20 goddamned months of subscriptions. Thank you so much, Gohan, pushing us we're up to 152 in this live stream from whatever we started with, it was sub 150, it was 149 or something. I don't know what it was, but thank you guys for the support, especially when I'm just sitting here talking about a movie from 7 years ago that I just saw, and but they should have done it this way.
Movies of this era got the Avatar syndrome, trying to make a tech-heavy effect movie look cool and become a epic.
Become more epic. She changed what you said, become more epic. She wanted it to become more epic. But it was become a epic. Become her epic is what she said. Yeah, I can see that. I mean, this was also, wouldn't this be around the Michael Bay time too? I'm not sure when the first Transformers movies started to be, maybe they became first in, I don't know, a couple of years before 2013 or something like that. But yeah. There's a lot of, hey, if we just, throw a whole bunch of money at the 3D design stuff, then we get a good movie out of it. But I think there was more movie to this than that, and it especially appeals to me because I do have the background of, Neon Genesis Evangelion and just anime stuff in general, Lelouch the Rebellion, Code Geass, giant robot anime, Mahoramatiku Lavu. I have some background there, so it was nice to see, it was pretty fucking cool when, the lights are just coming up, and one of the first things that they throw on screen is Kaiju, Giant Beast, Jaeger, Hunter, German, and this the other thing that's yeah, you're just getting right in there fast. It's all right, we're gonna get some fucking anime themes going on. So there was good stuff there. Godzilla came out the year after. The Godzilla with War Games fucking Broderick. That one? Because that was a thing that happened. That was a movie they made. Let's talk about how they waited 20 years to make the Avatar sequels. That's coming out, isn't it? Or did it already? I don't know. I don't follow anything, really. And a Godzilla came out in 2010, too. Was that the Broderick one? That movie is a national treasure, the Broderick Godzilla. It's definitely, it was made in this nation. And the last word I'm struggling to say, but damn. But yeah, so we were going to do some coding here today. So what I want to do, let me explain to you what I was going for with this Python code here. If I start this up, and I hit Alt-V once it's open and running, because it runs in console mode by default right now. Again, this is all very much in development. Eventually, everything would happen in console, and it wouldn't look like this until you opened up the video editor, video analyzer side of the software. But with this, in case you didn't see it the first time I do it, I will bring in Wolfie's World 4 speedrun again. I've got draggable mark in, mark out heads, basically, here, so that you can choose exactly where you want, a video to be analyzed. In this run, doesn't matter much, but in my runs it would matter because I do a lot of shit before I start showing you the run. And I do a lot of shit after the run. So if a moderator were to download a video into this program, they would need to be able to mark in, mark out. I have done that. I've created that so that that works. Once you've got your mark in, mark out points, you hit the analyze button. And then the red bar starts scrolling across, dropping green and purple bars as it passes. Again, just all placeholder shit. Marking when you hit a level complete screen and when you exit a level complete screen, when the run starts and that kind of a thing. So it's marking all of those as it's doing the analysis. When it is done, in the white frame on the right, it actually gives information telling you about each event. Right now it tells you about each event. So it's telling us here that on frame 103, it saw something. I believe it detected that we were on the level complete screen, and it did nothing because nothing's supposed to happen there. On frame 123, it detected that we had left the level complete screen into a, actual starting of a run, and so it did the start command, which is to say that it started its own internal timing to determine how long the run is right there, and then when we hit the level complete screen, it does a pause and a split, and then when we leave the level complete screen, it does an unpause, and then that repeats throughout, and that's how, we've got all of the information about all of the actions that it's taking right here, right now, as equally marked here in, a visual kind of a thing that you can't zoom, which is a big deal that I have to, write, and it's going to be difficult to write a zooming of a timeline kind of a thing. But, so that's what it's doing right now, and then when it's done, over here, you actually get an output of, the figures in the console. We've got the split times, which these are inaccurate when we're using the video analyzer here, because this is actually the amount of real time it took while it was processing the video between splits. But over here we see when we're doing frame times, when we're counting the amount of time by frame, this is the actual time, this is the frames. 257 frames is equal to 8.564 seconds, which means that's what the RTA time is, that's what the IGT time is. And so I've got the information about how long it is by frames as well. And here we can see at the very bottom, if you guys can see that, if I scroll out of here, where we get the split totals in. We've got this is the amount of time it took for the analysis to run, but the real amount of time that it saw in the frames of the video, the total run by RTA is 3,646 frames, which is equivalent to 2 minute, 1 second, 0.501 seconds. And then you've got the IGT times as well, which is 157.169, and then you've got the waste time that was spent between levels that IGT doesn't count. So you get all of the information out of it right now. What I want to do with it today and be done with by the end of the day is simply take this, because this is a new thing that I wrote recently, this whole splits, that it outputs these splits like this. I wrote that this month or, end of April or something like that. That's a new thing that isn't available on GitHub right now. I haven't pushed it yet. I will be ready to push it if, by the end of the day, we use this data, this split data that's now being collected and presented in the console, to populate this area. So that instead of showing you every single frame that occurred, it just shows you the final splits of, the first world, the second world, the third world, and it tells you all of the information that you would want to have here in frames, because this is a video analysis, so we'll ignore entirely the real time that it takes to process. The real time is useful when we're running it live while we're speed running, because that's the most accurate representation of when things occurred, is by the actual time on your computer's clock. But when we're doing a video analysis, all we care about is the frame numbers. We'll put that information here, and if I can put this there, then we've got an app that I'm ready to build another executable for and push to GitHub, and that's going to help the moderators and AJ and Snakeathon. That's going to help them moderate videos and also do some testing on another Autosplitter that is being developed for Cluster Truck simultaneously. Let's see. I have returned, says Tamale. Welcome back. This is really great, like genuinely impressive. And I teach computer programming. Oh, cool. Jack my rich up. Yeah, tell me where I'm fucking up. Avatar sequels are taking so long to happen is because James Cameron is an asshole who can't get his shit together, and he keeps making excuses why he is not ready. I don't know. I don't know anything about Jim Cameron. Shot the first one on all new technology, and it did great. Don't see what excuse he could have. Okay, so Cluster Truck World Record speedrunner, movie critic, politically aware, and programs his own Python tools for speedrunning. Damn, yeah, you want to go on a date with me? I'm the whole package, baby. So yeah, how do we get that information in there? So it's been a minute. Now this is just one end, one of the files in here. I've got file handling and I've got the UI code over here. that I wrote. And what have I got? So this is timeline, this is a video player, this is the video analyzer. The video player is going to be that. Cursor's draggable is an object that gets attached. So under the video analyzer, I would assume that I'm going to find the functions that I wrote to populate that stuff on the right. Add data entry. Yeah. So all I'm doing with the data entry right now is sending text to this function, and it's filling in the objects that I'm creating to format it and get it in that scroll bar area, which is in and of itself a whole fucking thing, making a scroll bar in tkinter. But, so all I have to do is send the text to add data entry, which I presume I'm already doing over here in the engine. If we just did add data entry, is that the only reference? That's the only reference. So really all we have to do, this might be a short programming scream, to make this work is switch this out. But here's where it gets complicated. This is going through our run log and appending that information. We want the information that's going in there to come from the new thing that I wrote that gives us these splits output. So where is that stored and when do I do that? Because that's happening after... Once everything's done in this process and it falls out of this loop, the timer stops and I call log generate. So everything's probably called from there. So under my log object, the generate, now I have to figure out, what my objects are and what I'm doing. So under logger, yeah, because the log event is a type of thing that class could be under this class, but, it's all a work in progress. So under generate, we do three things. We have it do an output log, we do a print splits, and we do a write images. So under print splits, we should be calling this, I presume, splits. So we should be calling that at some point in here. For split in self.splits. Yeah, so we call it self.splits returns what? What's the formatting of this? Return splits, splits.append. So I start out with an empty array, or list in Python speak, but it's an array to me. Splits.append, the split number, the RTA time, the IGT, and the waste. And then I recall, without even looking, but it's all here as well, that I am actually storing the RTA, IGT, and waste are actually nested data. They contain both the real time and the number of frames. And I think then I calculate that, how is that stored actually? Do I have the real time, then the frame count, then the frame count as time? Or do I just do frame count? What am I storing here? So RTA is equal to now minus first, now minus first. So apparently I am just starting, wait a second, what's now 1 then? We've got, so the frame and then the time. Okay, so I'm just storing it as frames, which means, and that's the best way to do it. I'm glad I did it that way. I was just curious whether or not I was smart enough to do it that way before. Instead of calculating the time and putting it into the thing, just pass the frames along and then we can calculate time later. So yeah, that's the format of what we're getting out here is going to be the number of the split, RTA, IGT, waste, each of which contains the frame, followed by the amount of time for each split. And then that, when we call print splits, we collect that, we get it all out, num, RTA, IGT, waste, and then we go through it, and it's basically just all string manipulation at that point, putting the data in something that prints out nicely here. So what we need is actually, we need to get this data from splits, and we need to store it when we get it, so that I can then feed that data into print splits. So if we do print splits with the rate and the splits, so I put the splits in, and then for split in, instead of self.splits where we're calling it directly, we just take the data that we've been handed, the data package, as splits. Make sure that there's no other splits reference in here. There isn't, so splits. So now when we call print splits, which will be here, we need to be handing it Shit, which do I hand it first? Because I'm an idiot. Splits and then the rate? Alright, so we need to be handing, when we call print splits, we want self.splits and frame rate. Yeah, except for, because we want that information stored, do I have a self.splits that is public? Almost certainly not. So let's do that. We'll add to the initialization self.splits. Well, no, but that's the name of the thing, isn't it? That's the name of what you call. Yeah, but I need an object. So maybe we'll gen splits. We'll rename that function. But self.splits is equal to this, and then print splits self.gen splits. And then down here where we had named this splits, we'll name it gen splits. So we'll generate the splits. When we generate them, we actually don't want to do this yet. We want to do this separately. So we're going to say self.splits is equal to self.gen_splits. And that will store that value into our public value, and then we can do self.splits. And that should do everything that it's already doing, without getting in the way of anything, but it will populate a public object with the values that are in self.splits, which we can then call down at the other thing, wherever that was. Fuck. I don't even remember the name of it. This is how I code, too, not really knowing. Add data entry right there. So instead, we can do for num RTA IGT waste in log dot, it's self.log? Probably self.log dot splits. And now we've got all of those values out, and now it's a matter of, again, deciding how we want to format the string that's going to go in there. So since I've already done that in print splits, let's borrow some of that code and then modify it the way that we want to. Where am I here? That's engine. Yeah, in print splits. So let's just... Oh, that's what we want to do. For split in splits and then numRG. Yeah, we got to get it out that way. Yeah, we will. Okay, so let's just take all of that, just that we have something to work with, even though it's going to look different. So actually here, I'll just drop that in, and for split in self.log.splits, stop complaining. Good. It's a big program now, so it takes a minute to like, okay, you're all right. No, we can do these things. Num RTA IGT, so that gets it out. Now, some RTA, some IGT, some waste. Yeah, I guess we do want that. So earlier in this, I presume we set all of those to 0 in, yeah. So let's grab this as well, basically copying the whole print splits thing. And if it ends up being like similar, like nearly duplicated, then maybe we'll make it its own thing. But I'm going to try and avoid that. For split, before that happens, we'll do that. Are you within a process so that you're not like things that are held eternally? Fuck it. Some RTA, some IGT, some waste, some drop 0. We get the splits out, then we get the values broken down, and then we can add all of these values up on each pass, which will give us a final tally of what the sums were. Now, we don't need no education. We don't need the times. We just need the frames for what we're doing here. Although if we do make this a... If we do make this a discrete function that I can just call, then all I would have to do is remove from this function the idea that it prints itself. And then we could hand the data out of the function that's already been formatted cleanly and nicely. I don't want to do that, because it's going to be a bit of a bitch deciding how I'm going to fit all of this data cleanly into the UI. So yeah, for now, don't think too many steps ahead. A good rule of fucking, coding. Don't think too many goddamn steps ahead. So for splits, we get all the information out. We are tallying it each time that we make a split, but when we have a split that we're going to put out, I'm just going to start this out myself, and then we'll figure it out. Out is equal to, let's have an F string. F strings mean that in Python, anything that I put in the brackets here is now code. So I could put something like that, and it will insert that code, and then anything that's outside the brackets could just be text that will be printed, without being analyzed, and then I could put something over here, and then that would be code. So that's how an F string works in Python. And we don't need to put it in an array the way that we did in this last thing, because the array was really so that I could, in the console, get it so that it would line up nicely and give space between all of the different columns so that it's easily legible. Brad5100, thank you for the subscription. 3rd month. What do you think about the Apollo Legends stuff going on? Oh, with, what's his face? Donkey Kong Man. With, God, I could fucking see him, too. It's hard not to see him. He's like the slightly less skeezy Kid Rock, and it works with Kid Rock because it's his fucking aesthetic, but this guy doesn't think that he looks like that, and he does. With Billy Mitchell. Billy Mitchell, that's right. Billy Mitchell. Have I seen the fucking follow-up video of where he's not going? I don't think I've gone back and looked at it, even though I said I was gonna. I don't do the things that I say I'm gonna do. I haven't actually seen the video where he talks about why he's not, or, that he's not going to sue Billy Mitchell. The fact that Billy Mitchell is trying to come after a whole bunch of people for defamation lawsuits is just, part of the fucking character that is Billy Mitchell. None of them will be successful. Defamation cases are really hard to bring, really hard to win, and it's just stupid, but, maybe it gets Billy some fucking more headlines or something for a little bit, and if he keeps his name in the... that's what defamation suits come down to, is usually you have one person who's doing it either against the advice of their lawyer, because it's a defamation suit, they're hard to win, they're probably not going to go anywhere, and you're going to spend a lot of money doing it, and even though I'm your lawyer, I have to give the advice not to file this lawsuit, even though I'm going to make a bunch of money. Or it's somebody who's filing a lawsuit because they want to, get out in the news again. They want to get their name circulating or something like that. And then the other way that defamation suits come around is by the person who got sued for defamation then tries to sue the person who sued them for defamation. Because it's defamation suits are basically kids in a sandbox throwing fucking clumps of mud at each other. And so when Apollo Legends said that he wanted to sue Mitchell on behalf of everyone else, with everybody else on board, who was also being sued for the defamation that Billy Mitchell may have, be guilty of. My opinion was you shouldn't do that. And then when Apollo followed up with, and I need $10,000 to do it, I was like, where did you find a fucking lawyer who said they can do it for $10,000? Is this a friend and family kind of deal? Because it's probably going to be a case that exists over state lines, which means it's got to be in fucking district courts that are for multiple states and that can operate at a federal level or something like that. And a lawyer, $10,000 is like 100 hours of a cheap lawyer's time. So there you go. You got 2.5 weeks, 40-hour work weeks of a lawyer's time, and you're going to bring a defamation suit in a federal court, in a court that, can adjudicate across state lines? Really? So I guess I just think that Billy Mitchell is a prick, just a huge ego, nasty looking fucking weirdo who's trying to maintain an image that he's never had, but he thinks he has it. And Apollo Legend is, got kind of sucked in by it. Because the best thing that you could do is basically don't say anything about it until it's done, because that's always a good lawyer's advice. And then when it's done, you make a big fucking thing about it and talk all the points of your case and everything like that. But you don't like fire back, because it's a defamation case. They don't go anywhere. It's very fucking rare for defamation to go anywhere other than settling out of court. And yeah, it's just a big waste of everybody's time. He's supposed to take him to court, but cancel it because of his lawyer. Yeah, what I heard on the back end just here in chat was that, because I was making those questions, where it's $10,000 fucking dollars, and then what I heard here kind of sounded like it insinuated in the video that I haven't watched about why he's not going to sue Billy Mitchell, is that he got good legal advice from another lawyer. Who probably told him, you are not going to do this for $10,000, and also, this is a big waste of your time, and trying to run a case against someone while the other case is going in your direction doesn't work. You can't do that, and it's like, just, no, don't do this. So, yeah. I believe that's what he did, but I think he could win, honestly. Maybe he could, but the amount of money that it would take to win, and then can you collect on Billy Mitchell, because he's Billy Mitchell. He thinks he's great. I don't think Billy Mitchell lives in a mansion. I gotta be honest. I don't think Billy Mitchell goes home with this fucking, cheap version of Kid Rock's aesthetic. And like Kid Rock does go home to a mansion. I don't think Billy Mitchell goes home to a mansion. So you spend an incredible amount of money suing, prosecuting, litigating, and then on the other end, can you collect anything from this guy? I don't know. He has a hot sauce company, and he's partner in 1 or 2 restaurants in that shitty town he's from. Well, maybe he's got some resources then. I've been involved in enough just minor court kind of things that if you cannot go to court, don't go to court. It's, the money that it costs to do it in the first place is fucking ridiculous. And, if it's really just fulfilling your personal sense of justice, which is basically what the defamation case is going to be about, I mean, I can't imagine that anyone has ever lost a contract. Not like there are people who, because they were really close to Billy and because it involved Billy and it was that world and everything, that have definitely been, hurt by Billy financially and with their agreement or, with their relationships with businesses. And I suppose that's where Apollo Legend is, trying to bring this suit is on there on their behalf. So there's some credibility there. But, with Apollo Legend himself and with other journalists and things like that who have been spoken to, just like, and who Billy is suing, the trying to prove that you have had real financial losses that can be quantified in court because Billy Mitchell said a thing. If we live in that world, then it would be nice to see some justice, because there's no reason that anyone should ever listen to Billy Mitchell. And if people are losing fucking business contracts because Billy Mitchell said a thing, fuck. But honestly, you probably didn't want to do business with those people anyway, because they listened to Billy Mitchell. But it goes deeper than that, because somebody says something about you like that publicly, openly, and it's not necessarily that people believe Billy Mitchell, but that they don't want to do business with you because there's an association, and now you're out there, your name's out there over this negative thing, and it's courts and stuff, and so, yeah, we're just going to pass. I mean, I'm kind of in that situation with GDQ. If I were... and this is completely hypothetical because there's been no relationship between me and GDQ. There's been no communication. Really. Yeah, really there hasn't been. But like hypothetically, I'm in that situation where because of the thing around, Connor and GDQ and what we exposed there, like GDQ has no reason to not want me to come and run as a cluster truck runner. I'm the guy who caught the guy who was cheating and exposed him, and like, you got to purge your records and all that kind of stuff because I helped fucking catch. I did the good thing here. But GDQ may quietly internally, if I ever do submit to GDQ again, just decide, you know what? Let's not. And that would be because of everything that fell out, even though I'm on the right side of this and I did the right thing and I found the guy who lied to you and exposed him. They just might decide, let's not run Ronan Pawn, because there's history there. Like, I would have a lawsuit of potential losses against Connor on the virtue of, if GDQ were to decide not to run me, but I would never, if I did want to bring a suit, this is my whole point with the whole Billy Mitchell Apollo Legend thing, if I did want to bring a suit, how do I fucking prove that? The odds that GDQ would get on the record and say, yes, the reason why we're not going to run you this year, or, ever in the future, is because of the controversy that surrounded what happened with the other runner, and so we don't want that, like, to put them on record doing that would be, why would they go on record saying that? It just draws them more into controversy. And then there's more people out there. So even if that was their reason internally, what you say as an entity trying to protect your public image is you say, no, we just, we've already run Cluster Truck and we don't want to run it again. Or, we're not a big fan of Ronan Palm. We had other things. We just come up with a reason. Invent a reason. If I can't get GDQ to say that they are not, again, completely hypothetical scenario. I am not applying to GDQ. I have not tried to run anything since that run at GDQ. But, if it were to come to that, trying to prove that I have a financial loss because I couldn't go to GDQ, because GDQ won't take me, because of the controversy that stemmed from his actions, like, that is such a fucking gap to cross in front of a judge, or a jury in a courtroom. There's a huge gap. And if you cannot establish real, measurable monetary losses, then it doesn't matter what they said. It doesn't matter what they said or what they did. It doesn't count. There's no remuneration just for somebody saying something about you that wasn't true. I mean, you can get it, but that's just triple the size of the gap that you have to cross. It would bump all of your views up because of the drama interest pieces. You're damn right. And that's probably what Billy Mitchell was thinking when he decided to file suit against Apollo Legend and a half dozen other people or whatever the fuck's going on there. If it were me, I'd play on that because you have a name. Yeah. I'm doing fine. You guys take care of me. If I can avoid drama, I'll avoid the drama. Plus I code. Yeah, there you go. I code. So I got the code. I got the... What are we doing? We're going to do an F string of the input that we're taking out of splits now that we have the information in splits, and we only need, for this, the frames converted. Now, what I could do is each time here, this would make it easier to read the code instead of doing it in line, is I could do RTA. Can I just do RTA? It's just going to be frames pawn. Because I'll have the frame number, and then I'll have the RTA as time. So we've already done RTA, so if I did RTA time, we could do, I wrote a function, it's going to be frames to hours, minutes, seconds, and that takes the number of frames and the rate. So I could do RTA 0, which will contain the number of frames, and the frame rate. Where the fuck am I getting the frame rate? Well, it would be from the video file itself, which would be further up here when we instantiate this. Rate. It's just rate. I'm a smarty. I know what to name things. So that would give us time specifically, and then we can just duplicate this for IGT and waste. So IGT time, waste time, frames to HMS, and then it'll just be IGT there, and it will be waste there. And we've already brought out RTA, IGT, and waste right here from what we've pulled from log.splits. So now we've got that data, and we can reference directly the number of frames as well in order to get the exact number of frames and what they represent in time to output into our frame. I didn't know you coded. I came for the speedruns and came back, and he's coding. I was just introduced to F-string today. Haven't read up on it yet. It's simple, and there's so many things that, like, I've looked at how, because I came to Python after it was already in 3.0, 3 point something, and I have seen when I'm out looking for, help with code, I've seen what you used to have to do in terms of putting strings together and how nasty in JavaScript it looks. And the F string is basically just put an F before you open up some double quotes, and anything that you put in curly brackets is now code. You run code between the curly brackets, or you can access a reference a variable, and everything outside of it is just text, and it's just clean, and it's pretty. It's good implementation. I think there's some other things you can do, and that I do in here with it, but whenever I get into like string manipulation, I basically just I copy paste. I copy pasted something from the internet at one point. Now I've got it here, so I'll copy paste it again. You get into format anyway. When you start calling format, it's it starts to look like what's that shit where it's just a whole bunch of symbols and you put together. I mean, formatting something, you got to know that the number sign means, and then you put a decimal point here, and then if it's a lowercase p, then it'll convert it to this. And I don't fuck it. I'm not gonna memorize that. But okay, so RTA time and IGT time, we got all of that out. Hello, kitty. Mr. Bags is here. You wanna come up? Oh, he's winking. He's doing that thing. You just close your eyes a little bit. That's how a cat says, "Hey, baby." It's probably the H word, but I think I fed them like 2 hours ago. Maybe he's just missing me. What you're doing is called string interpolation. Is it? Interpolation? What, the space between two ends of a string? What are you talking? Finding the steps along? Shit, I've used something similar with print, sum string, and then dot format and variable. Yeah. Whenever the fucking format shit comes in, I don't know, it's nasty. It gets nasty. I try to avoid it, but I can't. Because you do have to format these numbers so that they don't run on and on and on and on and on. You gotta at least tell them to stop after the third decimal point, or else you're just printing out floating point errors. Out F, so we're gonna make an F string. We've been sitting here on gonna make an F string for a while, so let's just put it in here. So we want the number of the split, which will be pulled out here from split. So we've got the number of the split, and then colon. Since I'm just printing at this point, it can be more, we can do something better with it later, where I have an object that creates these entries in our scrollable pane, and I just feed it the different information. I could even write it so that I just dump in the self.splits, log.splits, the whole thing, and then it just does it and formats it and makes it look real pretty. But we're just going to shove some fucking text in there for now, which is going to be, we got the number of the split. We want RTA, IGT, and waste. And I'm wondering if actually what I want to do is something like this. I'm just thinking visually formatting. And then we do a line break, which will make it look like that. So we'll have that number with a couple of dashes around it. This is 1, and then underneath it, we'd have RTA, and we would do RTA time, and then we would do RTA 0, which will have the frame count in it. We put the frames in parentheses after it. I'm just, because it's a very small space, if I run this again, I don't know if it's going to run. If I run this again, there's not a lot of space in this window the way that I've got it built right now, so I just want it to look decent in this interim build. So if I just do the number of the split, and then RTA, IGT, waste, each on their own line, that should be okay, right? Maybe? So RTA time, RTA 0, and then, yeah, we just sort of duplicate that. I want you... Yeah, you don't like that in the editor, but I want you to just line up so it'll look nice, and then we'll just keep doing it. Which means I'm going to need you, and then like that. And then this would be IGT, not RTA. And then another, and then this would be for waste. And I could put waist on the same line as IGT because you don't really need waist. You just, like, if it would fit. Let's do it like this to start. Don't get stupid, buddy. Waste time. Are you gonna catch up? Yeah, okay. I've just been typing too fast for it. Waste 0. Yeah, so that's our out. That's our string. As it is right now, frames dropped we don't need to know about because there won't be any frames dropped because this is video analysis. And you see, this is the kind of shit that I'm talking about right there with the format. That's the kind of shit. Doing a format of this out string, I had, these are the symbols for basically that tell it to, like, left a line and have there be 20 spaces and then left a line with 28 and like that kind of shit. It's just its own fucking internal language that I don't like. If I can avoid that, then keep it away from me. So we're not going to append anything. We're not going to calculate frames dropped because there won't be any frames dropped. Split totals doesn't need to be. It does need to be. I mean, we could put that out. And then it would be right there in the final feed. Yeah, let's do it. Total. But it's going to be basically this. So let's get rid of you. Paste you in. Ding, 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 ding. And then we don't want RTA. What we want here is sum RTA. Well, we're calculating everything there and we don't need to. So if we just did sum RTA and we did that. And again, I'm apparently moving too fast for the IDE here to actually keep up with making sure that I'm not fucking everything up. There we go. So sum RTA 0 plus RTA 0. That's all we need, and that's going to count the frames up. But it won't be the time, which is fine. Because we don't need the time yet. And then when we do this, yeah. So you'd be sum IGT. And then we wouldn't have... So, alright, so it'd actually be... It's going to be reversed here. You're going to be sum RTA, because this is going to be the frame count. And then you're going to be sum IGT. And then what we want to print first is actually the frames to HMS. Why didn't you? Frames to HMS of sum RTA, and you want the rate, right? Yeah, the rate. So first we'll print the actual times, sum IGT. And then in parentheses afterwards, okay, apparently they didn't close those brackets in this copy for some reason. But your waste, and I need you to be sum waste. And then you'll just be sum waste, and then actually we don't need the array, because it's not in an array anymore. Yeah, because we took it out here and we're just calculating frames. I thought format was pretty nice compared to concat. Fstring must be juicy if it's better than format. Well, I mean, Fstring is just, it's easier to just shove things together in the code, but if you do have to do formatting and whatnot in order to pull things down and make it, then you I've been just interacting with format because it's at least documented. I don't know if you can or can't do it, straight with an Fstring. Functionality overlooks for MVP. Thank you for fixing that. Have you looked at VS Code? No, I haven't. I haven't even heard of VS Code. Is that an IDE? You're saying that's an IDE? Which is, for those who are unfamiliar, the thing that I'm coding in right now is the IDE. It's the development environment. No, and I'm just in PyCharm here, and I'm happy with it. I mean, it works really well, where it's very well set up. Notepad++ style tabs and saving of your shit as you type it and everything, and then everything here that I need is here. It's the king right now, really fast. Ooh. Yeah, the reason why, I'll tell you why this is so slow, is because I put in my GUIable library in order to make tkinter easier to deal with. And this is a library that I wrote when I first started playing with tkinter, which is how you get a graphical user interface in Python without having to put in somebody else's library. So I wrote my own library. And this is a lot of shit. And these are nested classes. These are classes that inherit, what they're going to do next from the one. And I wrote all this. And yeah, that was a month and a half of my life that I was really interested in it. So I had a good time and I came up with something. But you can see that we start out with a windowable, which is just a tkinter window, childable window, which is just a tk top level window, and then a canvasable, which is a text widget from tkinter, and a frame widget for backgroundable. And then you get to skinnable, then you get to, once you get down here, I make a hoverable from a canvas widget, and then I make a clickable from a hoverable, and then I make a labelable I make a pushable from a clickable, then I make a labelable from a pushable, then I make a toggleable from a pushable, and a holdable from a pushable, and then once I got a holdable, I make a draggable from a holdable, and a scrollable from a troffable, and a troffable from a backgroundable, and then a scrollable campus from, and it gets deeper and deeper and deeper. So trying to parse all of this library that I'm using for the UI and make sure that I haven't fucked up code, I think is what slows this whole thing down a lot. I hate Python because they took out NNTP libs starting from 3.8. What's NNTP? NNTP. What is that? Something protocol. Transfer protocol. NRML's Nuggets transfer protocol library. I've never had call for an NNTP lib while I've been coding here in Python. I don't know what it is. Python library for the NNTP protocol. Yeah, I don't know what an NNTP protocol is. Neural networks. Ooh, okay. That would be fun. And they are taking it out along with telnet lib. I wonder if they're doing that just for more security. Just to make it a little bit harder for people to slap something together that can, ping fucking servers in the back end. And I have an idea. And I think I'm okay to share it because it's not necessarily that unique of an idea, and it kind of just, it hinges on me being the personality that I am online. But I have an idea for a YouTube series about black hat coding. Gray hat, black hat coding. Where each episode we pull open Python and from scratch I write something that is does something that people wouldn't want it to do. And then, at the end, if it's something that I couldn't legally use, I'll just be like, and there it is. Hope this doesn't get into the wrong hands. Oh, by the way, link in the description to the GitHub. I have a library, so if they take it out, I can still use it. It will make my Heroku deployments faster. So I need to bundle it with all my Python projects. Have you seen Nullbyte on YouTube? No. The closest thing to something like, I haven't seen anybody doing that on YouTube in particular, but what I do watch Code Bullet, once every 8 months when he comes up with something, I'm subscribed to Code Bullet. Watching his AI stuff has been very, interesting, informative, and he keeps it entertaining and fun. He's a black gray hat that you're talking about. I was talking about me doing the thing. I didn't know. LMAO Code Bullet. Yeah, he keeps it fun. He doesn't, I like that, in his presentation, it's very clear that, there's certain projects he gets into, and then he's there for 3 weeks because it gave him a whole lot of trouble, but it also enthralled him, and so he just went down the rabbit hole, And then other projects, he like starts to go down the rabbit hole, stops himself after 3 days and goes, fuck it, no, we're doing it a different way. Because that's just very like exactly the process of coding something is, you either something grabs you and you're like, okay, this is complicated, but it would be beautiful if I could do it that way. And you either just fucking commit to it and you spend 3 weeks going down fucking, how do I do it if I go into if I did this way? Or you start doing something and 2 days later you go, all right, no, fuck it, let's do it the easy way. And I like that he does either. What am I working on right now? Fan of Dominic Venture. This is Autosplitter for Cluster Truck. Communicates with Live Split, which I've got open right there, and automatically puts in it sends signals just over, ports in the computer. It sends a signal Live Split saying, okay, start the timer, fire the next split, pause the timer, and things like that. This actually, my code watches the screen as you play the game, and then analyzes the screenshot that it pulls back to see where you are in the game. And when it recognizes that it's gone on to a certain screen, it's like, okay, that's when a split should fire. And then when it sees that it's no longer on a screen that looks like that, it goes, okay, that's when we should start timing again, and things like that. But yeah, this is for Cluster Truck. I'm a speedrunner in Cluster Truck, and this program is what I've been doing my speedruns with for quite a while. Runs in the background while I'm doing the speedrun and puts in my times for me up there, which gives me accurate IGT times, in-game times, where we actually remove the time that you spend on in between levels. When you're running the levels, you get to the end of it, it comes up a level complete screen. While we're on the level complete screen, this can give you the time without counting that time against you, that you're just sitting waiting for the next level to load or trying to click a button. But yeah, we're very close to this now. We've got all this information coming in. We've got the out. What we want to do is at the end of this, and I wish I hadn't have gotten rid of that because now I got to go over to UI2. Oh, it's simple though. It's just add data entry. And I don't know what the object is, the object name is, but it should be right down here, right? We'll have instantiated it. VA win? Yeah, I think it should be VA win then. So what we want to do is simply VA window dot add data entry. Is that what you're under? Add data entry exists underneath video analyzer. So over here I should see myself spawning a video analyzer. There it is, VA win, it's self.va win though. Okay. That's why it's not liking it. Self.va win, add data entry, and then we just pass the text in. So each time that it loops through that it's got another split to parse here, it will, send that out, and then when it's done, it will send this out via the same code. And this one will be all of the final tallies and everything. If sum of drop is less than 0, we don't need to worry about dropped frames because this is video analysis, so it won't drop any frames. And then we do a log reset at the end of this. Okay, sum drop, we don't need that. We're not counting dropped frames. I think that's it. Let's start it up. Okay, I got a syntax error. Line 1. Did I, in one of these files, accidentally do a thing? Maybe GUIable? No, you're just lying. About line 1. File fstring line 1. Okay, so it's just gonna give me this and I'll just search it. Weird fucking error. Control F, boom. It's you, maybe? So sum IGT frames to, so I give it the sum IGT, I give it the rate, and then we close that out, and then we do this. Is it the fact that we're putting F's there and we don't need to? Is it something like that? Yeah, because this is a carried on line. So it shouldn't need an F. There we go. Okay. So I'm going to open up our video analyzer by hitting Alt-V. which is, by the way, something you can control. You can change it in the settings.config, video key Alt56 V47, if you knew the codes for that, which is not easy to get, so, you know, you're not going to change it. But you could open, because it's not just ASCII, it's not just ASCII, ASCII, I call it ASCII code. It's not just ASCII codes, it's some bullshit thing specific to the keyboard plugin that I picked out of a fucking hat and I've stuck with. But let's load up another file again. I'm not going to do any of my scrubbing because we don't need it here. We'll just click the Analyze button, and the code should run just as it always has, right up until the end, and if it's going to fail or function, that will happen right at the end when it's done doing the whole analysis of the video file. Is this the prequel to Pacific Rim Job? Average Joe. Prequel, sequel. Okay, so it worked once. I forgot to put in the /r/ends, and also it failed after the first one. And the error was some RTA int object is not subscriptable. Aha. Because, yeah, we were taking out, it used to be a nested array situation, it no longer is. So when I instantiate these things, they don't need to be that. They can just be 0.0. See, and by the way, when I'm complaining about people like making their code less legible, this is a sin that I commit regularly because I like it. If I've got 3 variables that I want to declare that all have a lot to do with one another, then I will do some RTA, comma, some IGT, comma, some waste equals 0.0, commas. I'll put it all on the same line instead of having 3 lines taken up by this is equal to that, this is equal to that, this is equal to that. That could piss another coder off because it would be harder to find. Well, where did you do some waste? Because I don't see oh, it's here. It's after. Why did you do that? So there are definitely ways to still make Python hard to read for the next guy, but this is one that I like and that I think works well and it makes sense. You're not wasting white space. If this had to be printed on sheets of paper, you know, you wouldn't be wasting paper. Put quotes around 0.0 to make it an integer. Like quote 0.0. I don't want it to be an int. Yes, I do. You're right. Yes, I do. I want it to be an int. And I'm pretty sure if I just put 0 there, it will decide it's an integer. But I've never... basically, you know, Python leaves its fucking variable declarations loose enough. So if I put 0 there, that could be true, false, 0. That could be 0 as an integer. That could be 0 as a float. But you're right that I didn't need the decimal point there because this is hard frames. These are integers. So you did catch me on something that is helpful. For split in... And that was our error. The other thing that didn't happen correctly here was that I didn't use line breaks in this, which I should have. The other thing that I note is that the 1 is on a line all by itself, and then it's, well, that's because it pushed it down because it was too many lines. That's how it, yeah. All right, so we'll just slow in some, or throw in some carriage returns. These are line breaks in Python. /r/n is the code for sending, you know, putting in, going down one line. And it is a lot of places, /r/n. That should print correctly, but that's just this one. What about you? See, but no, this one has this one's complaining now that it's not an F string and needs to be. And we threw an error the last time that we tried to start with this being what it was. But it's just this one again, F string total /r/n. We close the bracket, we come down, we actually don't need the, yeah, we'll leave that. An RTA, and you would be a carriage return, and you don't need the space there. You'd be a carriage return, and you don't need a carriage return because you're the end of things. Is this gonna not go again? Is it this? What's this? Is this the problem? That's the problem. There it was. So I had brackets there instead of parentheses. That was the problem from the beginning, and I corrected it by throwing in extra brackets and just doubling up on the brackets. So now that looks like that would probably work. What's your problem there, huh? What's your complaint? Continuation of a line from another... Well, what I want, though, is I want you to line up. Yeah, so that it's easier to read. I might also just do this. I think we'll have space for it. So I think I'll also do this. Just indent these a little bit. Yeah. Okay. Let's start her up again. Alt-V to get the window to pop up. Open up the 720 test. Easy. Quick one to run. While I keep it around, even when we're doing the live stream here, and there's a little bit less CPU for it to grab. You know, this gets done in like 18, 20 seconds for a 1.5 minute video, I think. 140 probably video in total length, or something closer to that. And we got ourselves another error and nothing printed here. Okay, good. We're getting closer. What have we done here? Line 570. You guys can't even see the fucking error. If I raise this up, maybe. Not that. If I... No, not that. That's the opposite of the thing. Like, if I moved you up, maybe you'd be able to see a little bit more of that. Without me having to shove myself around on screen. Sum RTA is equal to sum RTA 0 plus RTA 0. That was the whole fucking problem. That was the one problem that I didn't fucking come back to. Sum RTA is no longer a thing that needs to be accessed. None of these are. As a fucking array. Was the whole... That was this... It's the same error. I fixed 3 or 4 other errors, and didn't fix the error that we had last time. Hoorah! Okay. And again we go into the code. You know, they get me looking at one error, and I'm like, oh, that's going to be a problem, that's going to be a problem, that's going to be a problem, then I forget the first one. Analyze it again. I think this one should do it, though. I mean, it is just a simple matter of passing a string into a function that we already had written and working. And if it is, this will have been a nice little live stream. You know, because all I wanted was for this to work. The carriage returns are way too fucking big. You know, it's spacing them out hugely. But we are getting information here, aren't we? Okay. And then at the bottom, the totals come out, and it's a 201, 501, and it's a 157. All right. This is good. This is very good. I got ideas. So, number one idea is I want a little bit of space between the frame count and the time that was estimated from the frame count. For that, the other thing is that I would like, we print the number. What if we also printed here the running times? Because we want RTA and IGT. So maybe instead of hyphenation, we could. We do that, and then over here, no. We'll do the number, and then in square brackets, just for visual, it's just text. It's not doing anything special there. We do RTA time, and that needs to be in brackets because it does need to be doing something special there. We do RTA time. It's just I have to decide how to make it look. And we do IGT time. And we could even try and squeeze in waste time. I don't think we squeeze in waste time. Fuck waste time. It's not going to fit on the same line. Why am I getting like double carriage returns though? Is my thing. You know, if I just went /R and not /N, does that do a thing? Because I don't want the double line breaks. Either just /R or just /N. Will one of those just give me a single? Because I don't, you know, you don't see this in printing to the console, so I'm not sure why it's wrapping the way it is. Print already has a return. Adding /N gives it another. Yes, but we are printing this as a solid string. You know, we're storing it as a variable out, so when we do print, it's not like printing this and then that and then the other. This is carried on. So it's as though we're all on one line, and it's just one string. So if I took out all of the things, what is this now? What did I do? Did I do a thing? You did a thing, Pawn. Let's see. I don't know about this /r/n nonsense. Why I'm getting double breaks. Never use /r. /n usually works for. Let's try /n then, because yeah, I don't think I've ever used /r, and I don't think I've ever really just used /n on its own. But /n sounds a little bit more plausible if anything's going to work. But yeah, since these are just solid strings, we're putting the line breaks in the solid strings so that it'll be translated in. Try that. This is good, though. We're getting there. We might already be there, in fact. Especially with this kind of thing. I mean, I spend ridiculous amounts of time in coding thinking about how it looks, you know? How the code looks, what I should name these variables so that they're most, you know, explicit of what they're doing, but also they don't go on and they're really long names with a bunch of hyphens underneath them. I spend a lot of time doing that, and then when it comes to stuff like this, I spend a lot of time figuring out how it will look best to format. And yes, the /n works on its own, and so this is telling us, yeah, the continuous times. I don't like the way this looks yet. I absolutely don't like the way this looks yet, but it's doing what I wanted it to do, except we're not converting them to time, because these aren't, they're adding together. World 4.3, these times aren't adding. And yet they're correct when they get here. So what have I done wrong? Because they are correct. I recognize those numbers. I've looked at this one over and over again. So what am I doing wrong here? We're taking just RTA time. We're supposed to be taking some RTA, Pawn. Some RTA. And some IGT. Not some of a get. No, some IGT. Here's some of a get. But yeah, I'm thinking we're going to go back to that, space it out, give those 2 times, and then depending on how, and this is like temporary shit, but you know, I'm telling you, I will spend time here trying to figure out what looks nicest, what's most legible, even though this is temporary placeholder nonsense. So how many spaces is that? Is it that many? That many, that many, that many. Give you an extra space out there, too. Alright, let's see. Runner again, please. So, and by the way, yeah, fuck it, let's do this one, so I'll show you the actual benefit of having these mark-in, mark-out points, because in this video, this is one of my old videos, but it starts out, boom, we're on World 1, so I'd put the mark-in here, and then it will detect that we're on a menu screen and be able to do its thing. But you'll also see that at the end of this video, I do a bunch of stuff in editing at the end to be like, hey, check out the times, here's an instant replay of the final, you know, run into goal and all that kind of thing. So all of this, you don't want to bother running the splitter on. It might confuse the splitter. You might get invalid results back because it's maybe it'll detect something. And the other thing is that, you know, so it's out and whatnot. So we'll mark in, we'll mark out there, click the analyze button, and this is my own run at 1080p 60, which means that the analysis takes longer. And while we're live streaming, especially since there are a few less CPU resources, clock cycles available to this Python script, it's just a little bit faster than actually sitting down and watching this run. So that was 7.2 seconds clear through there. It probably took us 6-point-some seconds to actually watch that in these frames putting out. And surprisingly, a not small amount of the processing time here is actually in rendering these still frames, because, you know, I wrote this so that you could see that it was doing what it's doing while it's doing it. And every time it has to stop and render that still frame, because it's a still frame that's going to be written out into a tkinter UI environment, I have to process the frame to be compatible with the tkinter canvas or something. I can't even remember how I did it, but it takes longer to process these than it does to actually process and draw them to the screen than it does to analyze a single frame. So yeah, it's eating up a fair bit of our CPU resources just to show where we are in the run. And I've got ideas about how to do that better for optimization's sake later. But it looks to me, I'm just doing the frames there. So we're still not right, because over here what we're seeing is just the frame count, and I want that to be the time, and I want it to be the running amount of time as opposed to the running tally of frames. So I forgot to do that. But everything else looks like it's working on first glance. It took 7.4 seconds IGT and 7.85 to get through there. 7.15 on the first one is the same because that's how it works in RTA and IGT when you start the timing. And then at the end, this one shows that the RTA time of that very old World 1 no ability run for me was 134.3, 128.267, and tells us the number of frames afterwards. So what I want to do is shift the RTA IGT waste over a little bit more to the right, and I want to replace these with actual times. So it's just a matter of formatting, but everything works just the way that I want it to. Let's give it 4 more spaces on each line and see if that, you know, just feels better in terms of weighting. 4, 4, 4. And then some RTA, what we needed to do actually was frames to HMS, some RTA, and then we have to hand it the video rate. And then same here, frames to HMS, some IGT rate. And really, but that's a running tally pawn. Yeah, so don't worry about it. No, I was going to say we could calculate this ahead of time and then we'd have it down here, but no, this is a running tally and this is the final tally. So yeah, we're not wasting. We're wasting maybe one process, but it's good. It's fine. So that, see how that ends up looking. We'll go back to the 720 footage because it takes a lot less time to process because it's not 1080 and it's not 60. It's half the frames, and 720 significantly less, maybe almost half the pixel density of the resolution of 1080. I don't know how that works out. I know that pixel density, when you scale up, like, you make it half a size bigger, it's a lot more fucking pixels. It's a lot more fucking pixels. This is incredibly interesting watching and hearing your actual thought process going through this. And you know what? I feel very good about this programming stream where I haven't a lot of others because this one is kind of easy on my brain. I'm not inventing something from scratch, so it is just a lot of simple stuff that's like, yeah, that makes perfect sense to me, and that's what I need to do, and now I'll do it. And there have been other programming streams where it's like, what if I did it this way? That get a little bit out of hand. This variable is for keeping track of a number. Yeah, that's the kind of variable naming that I spend a lot of time trying to avoid. Colwalt 1234, sorry. Let's see. So Karen said, making something user-friendly is harder than making something usable. Abso-fucking-lutely. User interface design, graphic user interface design is an art in and of itself. And hello, V Young. So obviously we want to take one space out of the RTA IGT waste because it will line up perfectly with the edge of those numbers. Other than that, looks fine to me. Totals are being printed correctly. We're getting RTA IGT. We're getting these. I could actually take out the brackets for the running time and just have the times next to each other. I'll put them in parentheses, actually. I think that would look nicer. It's just down to a matter of how does it look at this point. But yeah, if I put the whole thing in parentheses instead of square brackets, you know, if I really cared, I would want to, like, change the, I don't know, italicize or something like that. different values that are in here that are less important. The frame count, I could put those under italics, maybe put the running tally numbers under italics as well, and it would just draw your eyes away from what's not important, away from what you're not going to need that often, and to what you're going to need. And if you end up needing those numbers, the frame numbers more often, just the fact that there's a difference between those two, character styles will make it more legible, easier to look at. So did I do that right? Run it again. Every time that we need to test this, it's 20 goddamn seconds. 720 test. Analyze. And I'll tell you what, while this is running, maybe what I could do is start opening up Cluster Truck so that we can have a good test as well of, making sure that the code still works while we're running. We haven't changed anything that should affect it, but, it's good to do a test anyway. So I'll do this, I'll click out of the window, Cluster Truck's going to black the frame for a minute as it loads up, no big deal. And we are using CPU for the other process, so everything's going to take a little bit longer. Any day now, Cluster Truck. Aha! Alright, so we finished this, RTA, IGT, Waste, they line up nicely with those top figures. Yeah, I don't like how the top figures are, kind of lost in here, but fuck it, basically. And yeah, it'll go by split count as opposed to trying to do anything special with, when you get up to double digits, it's going to move that out, and then that won't align anymore. Fuck, it's fine. It's fine. The totals are correct. The running times seem to be correct. The individual level times, the running times, we're adding them up. 157.169 is the final split, and that's the same for IGT, and the RTA is still, then those are correct, and then as we go back, we see the time amounting as it goes. It's perfect. That's what I wanted to accomplish today in putting these in. Yeah. So good. And then what we will do now is we will start the program up again, because that's just the video analysis side of things. This is also, however, for live running. So I'm going to start the server in LiveSplit that allows it to hear data that's being sent to a certain port. So LiveSplit now is listening. Our program, I'll reopen it just to make sure that it connects to the port that maybe wasn't open for LiveSplit before. So now we've got a connection. It's started and ready. We put it in the background. Load into Cluster Truck. And if I were to start a run, as soon as we drop in, the timer should automatically start on its own. And it did. And then when we get to a split like this, in fact, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go next level while we're running, and then I'm going to switch over to game time, because it records, LiveSplit records both real time and game time if you feed it the signal. So here's game time, and I'll show you more more of what the program is doing, because it's not just sending split signals, it's also sending signals that tell LiveSplit to pause itself when we're on a level complete screen. So RTA time right now is still running in the background, because RTA doesn't take this stuff out. But IGT time has been told to pause the timer until we re-enter the game, and when we do, it immediately unpauses the timer and we can start running. Well, it starts timing, anyway. So here, and off of you. Well, it wasn't perfect, but it'll do. And since we've been running the full game in any percent, I've been, using RTA timer. I've been watching the RTA timing and things. Holy! Do it again. But if we were running, like, the segments, if we were running just World 1, just World 2, shit, then I would be watching IGT timing, because IGT, the segments are so competitive that if you're also counting the time that you spend trying to click the next level button and waiting for your computer, whose processing power may be different than the next guy's, to load the next level, that's not really fair. It's not really a fair way of competing in the segments. RTA, it's also not fair, but it's more, it's a long game, fuck it, Eventually, I'm pretty sure the whole of the Cluster Truck community is... Oh wait, you're supposed to do this here. The whole of the Cluster Truck community is pretty much on board for switching our entire system over to IGT timing, so no more RTA timing. I mean, it'll be there, but the preferred, world records and things will be decided not on RTA, but on IGT timing, is where we're headed as a community. Which will rely either on my splitter being done or on the one that Happy Robots is working on, which just got a big update today and is now in testing for IGT. One of these has to be... Really, my splitter has to be working for the video analysis end of things, for moderation to be able to reliably do stuff. Did you want to do this? Right, that was the... We were going to do one of these for 2-3. But so basically both splitters have to be at some reasonable level of functioning, and honestly, after what we've just done here today, mine's ready for moderator use video analysis. It already was, but it's going to be way easier for them to compare, frame times to what the live recordings, the live timings are putting out. Because there is a concern with that. Woo! Yeah. There is a concern with that because, things aren't always going to be perfectly accurate. With my system, you're going to be dropping frames. Your system has to run my thing while you're running the game, and my Autosplitter only takes 2 to 3% of CPU on my CPU, but it is something that's running, and it is interacting with video elements, and so there's an overhead to that, and frames will be dropped. Frames are dropped while you're running this live, at least on my PC while I'm live streaming, which is pretty much the only time that I actually run the game, is while I'm live streaming. Holy shit, he stayed alive and then got himself killed. So you can't really trust IGT timing from the end user's computer, which means you have to be able to analyze the video, which is what we've been working on. And now that the video analysis provides a easy, legible set of splits at the end of analysis, and provides you with the totals in the UI of the whole run, it's going to be that much easier for moderation to play with. 10 would be if I can get it. It's not high enough. Okay, you give me a whole bunch of extra height that I don't want. And that's straight into the fucking tree. Yeah, I'm definitely not warmed up on this shit today. There you go. Get over! We got over and we got to go. So that's the game. I'll also show you, if we can observe it. We won't be able to observe it, but I'll show you something that's interesting in the background. So I just hit the reset button while the splitter was running, and it took all of my times and did the splits and printed them out in the console for us and gives us all of that information, which basically duplicates all the signals that it sent to live split. So this is still working, which was something that we needed to test. When I reset it, I hit the reset button, then I left Cluster Truck, the frame, and because it had detected that we were on the start the game window, when we were on the menu screen, and then the next screen it didn't recognize, it assumes that we're running, so it starts the timer. And that will be handled, I've already done that before, it'll be handled so that that's not a problem in the final release. But, so when I hit reset, it prints out the run log of all the events that it did, and then it would print out the splits if we had any. But interestingly, I'm going to show you something now, is we're going to go into Cluster Truck. I'm going to go from the pause screen to the level select screen. Then I'm going to go back to the menu. Then I'm going to go to the level select screen. Then I'm going to go back to the menu, back out here, and then finally in the level select screen, and then I'm going to exit, and it'll start the timer. When I hit reset, in the run log, you will see a whole bunch of events, because the way that I've got this set up is that it is looking for the level select screen, and it's also looking for the screen before the level select screen. If it finds the screen before the level select screen, sort of the pre-menu or the secondary menu screen that we were going back and forth between, it'll go, oh, I've gone back, So I'm not going to start the live, not going to start the speed run. And then it'll put itself into a state of looking for the level select screen again. And so by going in and out, there's all these events where it sends no signals. The run where it says did here, it did nothing. Sends no signals to live split, but all of that is being monitored. Your movements between those screens in order to make sure that it doesn't falsely start the speed run when you hit something and then back out to a known quantity screen. So that's how the splitter works, and it seems to be working very nicely right now. If I hit Alt-V, then we'll pop up the analyzer. It will now stop communicating with live split, I think. Yeah, it doesn't communicate with live split while it's doing this kind of an analysis, and it will just tally it up, and then when we close the video analyzer, the program closes entirely, the way that it's built right now. Because, again, it's all just being hacked together. If your Autosplitter drops frames internally, is it possible that it also causes Cluster Truck to drop frames? Wouldn't that kind of frame manipulation put everybody that uses your splitter into the task category? No, it doesn't cause Cluster Truck to drop frames. It drops frames because of the limitations of the function of the library that I'm using to record, to take screen caps at 60 frames per second. I'm capping a small area of the screen, and in testing, there's a limit. There's a limit to how much screen you can grab and how often you can grab it. I can grab it at 60 frames per second, but because of the load that's put on the system overall, not just by Cluster Truck, but by OBS, by the fact that we're broadcasting right now, so many things tapped into the same place. You can actually see in that run from earlier here, where we ran a whole bunch of frames, at the end it says that it dropped 120 frames while we were running, which is 2 seconds worth of frames. Those 2 seconds worth of frames, however, were dropped over the course of a 5-minute run. 5-minute, 18-second run. Yeah. So when you spread all of those frames out over 5 minutes, we're talking about there was 1 frame out of 60 frames in a second that it didn't see on, one pass. And then there was 1 frame on another pass a couple of seconds later. Then there was 2 frames on another pass a couple of seconds later. It could also be dropping frames due to, garbage cleanup processes in memory that Python runs automatically. And it's been suggested to me by certain viewers that I take control of those garbage processes, and I will look into that when we get closer to having a finished product. To see if I can't make this even more accurate, right down to the fucking frame, and to make it more efficient, because this is running on my system at 1080p. I kind of need it to run on Noah's system at 2K, or at 4K, or at just a higher resolution and things like that, so there's additional overhead that has to be accounted for. If you could CT to skip frames, you could make pause boosts way more powerful. I might be able to, we could gray hat a program that intentionally tries to slow down, or we could even do a screen cap situation where if I jump, it can be watching the screen, and if it sees that the windshield of a truck and a thing, and it measures a certain space, and then determines I'm that close, then it will automatically pause and unpause for me in order to fire it off at exactly the right moment. Yeah, I got that time in my life. But yeah, this works, and we just did an analysis of this one. One more thing that we need to do, because if I were to run this analysis again, currently it is not clearing this area. So it's just going to give us all of this plus all of that. And actually, when I click the Analyze button, it really kind of should have cleared it. Well, if it clears it, it doesn't need to lock it out. Yeah. But this is just going to stack our results again, so it needs to empty out whenever we hit the Analyze button again on this program. Yeah, because now you can see 1 through 10 in a total, and then 1 through 10 in a total. And I believe if I opened up another video, all of that would still be there, and it would just keep stacking those results. We don't want that. I decide that we don't want that anyway. So when we click the Analyze button in the UI, we need to empty out all of those entries. So Analyze button, configured, disabled. So when you click it, it disables the Analyze button. It does all of these other things. The data entries, though, we need to go through everything that is stored in is this? Frame 1. Frame 1 dot pack. Run data dot inner. We need to empty run data dot inner. How do I do that? TK enter, because I don't actually remember. If you click the analyze button, we should let's just do a quick search. TK enter, destroy all widgets in frame. Is it going to have to be a looped thing? Clearing a frame. Clearing a frame, thank you. Frame.destroy, frame forget, and then we could replace it. Pack forget and grid forget will only remove widgets from view. It doesn't destroy them. Your only real chance to destroy them is with the destroy method. Okay, so I'm going to have to loop through and do the destroy, which with something like this. That's what I wanted to know, is whether or not I had to do that or not. So that is what I need to do. When we click that button, we will disable the button, and then we will, for widget in the frame that we're looking for is self.runData.inner. And we want the children of that, widget.destroy. So that should clear all of that out. And actually it will clear out the... They're nested, though. When I kill the frame that contains the labels, will it kill all the labels, too? Probably. Probably. This guy was doing forget. He was doing frame.destroy first, and this guy says only remove them from view. No, frame destroy will totally remove the frame, and the other two. Destroy each one individually or destroy the frame, which will cause all of its children to be destroyed. There you go. That's the answer to the question I want. Okay, so now if we do this again, fuck, it just goes on, doesn't it? But we're done as soon as this works, and I'm going to push this to the cloud. I'm going to push this to GitHub. The code itself, as well as I will build an executable version of it. And upload it as a new release to github.com/RonanPawn/splitrp under the rebuild branch, because this is a project that I already wrote like last year, sometime last year, and got done with, and it wasn't good enough for my taste. It needed to be better. So there's our times. Times get outputted. Times look good. Times are times. And then if we were to click the analyze button again, it clears the frame. However, that's still there, and that is a problem with my my GUIable library. Scroll bars are really fucking hard. You take them for granted. You use them in computing. You have no fucking idea how much work goes into making a scroll bar something that actually functions. And now we've got less space for these. They're still fitting in, but they've been made. They don't quite fit for some reason. However, the scroll bar did analyze itself, and it has the correct scrolling, but now we have less. It's not filling up the whole space. Analyze again. Did you make another scroll bar, or what the hell is going on there? Destroying children is bad, okay? Children are destroyed every day by getting older. How is that bad? I mean, if you were the one to issue the child.destroy command, then that's kind of, you get into a moral gray area at least. It's consistently putting it there instead. How am I determining what the width of this should be? Is there something that I'm not destroying that I need to? Cursor.place forget. Timeline. Add cursors. Yeah, as we go through that, we do the analysis scrubber, we put the scrubber in place, or we disable it or something, right? Something. Cursor.place forget for name a cursor in self.timeline cursors.items. What I really need to do is destroy those first off. Now that we've read that text, can I do cursor.destroy for name cursor in self.timeline if type name is int? What was I doing here? This is just place for getting them. And then add the scrubber, background red, disable as we place them, something, I don't know, video, so we're calling the actual function to do the thing. Then when we're done, we re-enable the cursors. Scrubber, place forget. And then analyze button goes active again. Okay, well when we do a data entry add, we are adding it to runData.inner. And I'm going through runData.inner's children and destroying them all. Self.runData.inner .update. This might force it to recognize that it doesn't need to have that scroll bar, because now I realize what it is. We got the scroll bar that's not there when we open it up because it's detecting whether or not it needs a scroll bar. Then we delete all the content from it, but it's still got that scroll bar in it. Then when it goes to determine how much width it has left to fill, it's counting the scroll bar on screen, but that shouldn't be on screen. And that's where the problem is. So maybe if I force the scroll bar inner area to update, then maybe that will force the whatever algorithm I wrote that triggers the scroll bar to be moved, disabled, moved off screen. It probably won't, as I say that out loud, but let's try it. So, now our process of testing just got that much longer and that much more boring. The analyze button. Because we have to actually run this twice in order to test whether the scroll bar is getting in the way or not. As he does his thing. So really I need to end this live stream soon because yeah, interest has surely waned. Alright, so we did that. We did the numbers are right, and then we click analyze again. And I actually caused a runtime error. The program did not crash, it just stopped doing what it's doing. On what? Unbind, no, and disable. Self.unbind. Bad window path. Yeah, this is in my scroll bar code. It's very fucking tricky to write scroll bar stuff. I remember when I stopped working on my my library GUIable, it was because I was working on scroll bars and I was fucking sick of it. And I knew there were still bugs, and so I'm saying, where am I calling this originally? Line 99 and analyze. Cursor.disable for cursor in self.timeline.cursors.values. Line 99, cursor.disable for cursors. So that's here. And then line 546 in disable self.unbind B1 motion. So I'm pretty sure that these two are just happening. It's reporting this because it happened after I forced the update. Maybe I just forced it too early, you know? Just before the video analysis begins, which would be here. If I do that, and I can also do update idle tasks, which tends to be a safer thing to run, as opposed to just update just forces it to fucking do an update right fucking now. Update idle tasks will, check a list and see if there's anything that's important to it that it needed to update. An internal list of changes that have been made graphically that it was going to change the next time that it did something. So update idle task doesn't force it to act if it doesn't need to act. And that's all part of TK enter. That's not my code. That's just the way it fucking works. The analyze button again, and we still crash, and it is on this disable self unbind B1 motion. I think it's because I have emptied the area and now the code needs to take this away. That's basically what's going on here. It needs to get rid of that because it's empty and it's causing something to go fucking crazy and gooeyable on line 546. Let's have a look. I probably don't want to get into this. I might just accept this bug and ship it anyway. 546 disable self.unbind B1 motion, which is B1 motion, I believe, is dragging the mouse, or it could be scrolling the mouse wheel. I can't remember which that is. But all it's doing is unbinding that so that it's not going to respond to it anymore. And it is doing that, and then in unbind, it goes to bind, call bind self W sequence, and bad window path name, frame 2, timeline, cursor 4. Am I affecting the wrong thing? Did I miss the movie reviews? Yes, you did. It was at the beginning. Well, actually, it was about a fucking half hour in, because we just chatted for half an hour. But in the VOD, about a half hour in, we start legitimately talking about Pacific Rim. Am I doing entirely the wrong fucking thing here or something? Because why am I causing any problems with, Is it actually that I caused this error with the widget destroy? Or the cursor destroy, when before I was just making them, forget. Right? Cursor dot... Well, shit, now I forget what it is. It's, place forget? Because it's complaining about cursors and timelines and shit. Yeah, I don't think that has anything to do with the run data deal. I just thought it did. So if I destroy all those widgets, put it back where I wanted it to be, and then we update idle tasks there, and then we do the forget instead, it's all just fucking duct tape and lollipops, fucking paper clips. I'm making a bomb, MacGyver style is basically what I'm doing. With the UI at this point, anyway. The UI stuff is all kind of just fucking elbowed in there to get something working. Especially because it was very hard for me to figure out how I was going to get into the UI. Like, where the access point for me was. Where do I start? Of all the things that need to happen in this UI. And I kind of just started throwing myself against a wall one day. Analyze again. And it cleared it out, but that scroll bar still exists. It's still accessible. It has nothing to scroll. Yeah, fuck it. We're just gonna ship it with that. It's a little nothing bug that I can fix on when I care about it. As long as when I click it again and it runs it again, we just end up with the same problem. It still puts it in that space. It doesn't keep getting smaller and smaller and smaller, which it shouldn't because the scroll bar is still here. I think the difference is that there's this frame that used to contain all of this stuff, and then I deleted all this stuff, but the frame's height and width did not collapse in on itself down to zeros. And if it did collapse in on itself down to zeros, then it would get rid of the scroll bar. Boy, this actually, 'cause I have a question now, which is that if I were to process a different video that had a different number of splits in it. Aha, let's do this. Let's just cut out one of the splits, or two of the splits, and then reanalyze it. Is the scroll bar going to do the things that it should do in resizing and everything? Regardless, I think I'm going to call it on this for today because, you know, like I said, scroll bars are a fucking son of a bitch to deal with. I don't want to get into trying to debug my year-old GUIable library today to make the scroll bar work. Okay, I don't know if it resized the scroll bar appropriately, but I mean, it scrolls it correctly. It certainly scrolls it correctly. Let's bring you down to, like, just not a lot of levels and do this again. Oh, can't deal with debugging since I do it for a living. Much love and best of luck. All right. This mech suit is complicated, this average show, isn't it, though? Oh, okay, and then these actually fit in the space so we don't get a scroll bar. Because it's automatically... So the scroll bar is responding after it repopulates this. Yeah. I'm a little bit surprised that rundata.inner.update doesn't, well, that's update idle tasks. And I was causing an error and I switched to update. Let's just force an update and see if that does anything. If it doesn't, we're done for the day. Because, like, this is why I wrote a library for tkinter. Has everything to do with this little kind of shit. You know, there's so many things where when you're working with a library, or when you're working with tkinter, you have to force an update here, have it do an update idle task there, and you get different behaviors than you would expect according to the documentation and according to how it worked the last time you did it and shit like that. And it gets really fucking weird. So I wrote a library that kind of gives you space from all of that, takes you away from having to do all of that. And the place where I didn't quite make it work was scroll bars, because it's a lot. It's a fucking lot. You imagine, like, think about what a scroll bar is. You've got an empty space into which a scroll bar either can or cannot exist. So we have to determine whether or not we need to have a scroll bar if we're going to do this automatically. Once we determine whether it should or shouldn't exist, then it has to measure the frame that it's in versus the amount of content that spills out of the frame and decide how much of the bar, the draggable handle, is going to be draggable handle. And doing that did not help it, having it be an update. So it has to determine its own, you know, the width of the handle that you can drag based on that. It has to then slide things relative to how far you drag them down. It has to have a minimum size of the handle so that it can't be like, well, I need the handle to be 1 pixel large because, so there's a minimum size of the handle that has to happen. There's linkages between a panel that contains, like a frame that contains the things that's within it, and then when the frame updates, if the frame changes, the size of the frame changes, then the scroll bar needs to update as well, because the frame's different, which means it's a different size, so the scroll bar needs to resize. And then we're not even talking about the idea of being able to resize the window that contains the scroll bar. So the scroll bar area itself could get bigger and smaller, and then the scroll bar would have to respond to the fact that the window size changed, the size of its large frame got big. But there's so many fucking angles on making a scroll bar just fucking work. You can click on it, drag it, click it like that, and then do it. Did I make page up and page? I'd never even put in the fucking key bindings for page up and page down, or up and down. There's so many fucking angles just on a fucking scrollable area. It's crazy. But this is fine for now and for today. It tracks the running time, both RTA and IGT, RTA, IGT, RTA, IGT, as you're going through, and it tells you the individual levels, RTA, IGT, and amount of time wasted in between levels. So on this run, Wolfie is 0.3 of a second, then 0.4 of a second, then 0.7 of a second, then 0.3 of a second, 0.6 of a second. I would be interested to run a Snakeathon run through here because Snake is incredibly good at the fucking next level clicks, and I'm curious to know how much time waste he's got between levels in trying to get the mouse from the center of the screen down to the next level button. Like... Like so! Damn it. See, I missed it on the first drag. Get it down there. Click that next level, because that's where you lose fucking time. I mean, right here, you know, this is a 1 minute and 45 second run by RTA timing. 3.86 seconds of that is just trying to get the mouse down to the next level click, and then waiting for your computer to load the next level after you've clicked the button. Almost 4 seconds lost across just 10 levels of the game to that in-game time, to that waste time. But that's good. That's shippable. That's good. I pack that up, send it out to GitHub. In fact, as it stands here right now, we'll push it live. We'll push it on screen. So, update project, commit. We're gonna commit. Everything's working. All the files are good. So we're going to commit. Unversioned files. Is there anything that needs to be added that wasn't added before? Nope. Unversioned files are fine. We're going to update file handling, splitrp, and ui2.py. And the commit message is going to be splits analysis, splits output, plus a lot of refactoring. How do I want to say this? Before, today, one of the days that I coded this on my own, it was a lot of consolidating, plus consolidations and refactoring. Yeah, I took a lot of code that didn't need to be in two places, or that was a duplicate thing, and I got it all down to, tight, clean functions, and worked with the classes and just made it tighter. So splits output, consolidations, and refactoring. Yeah. All right. Commit and push is what we're going to do on this. So commit and push. And the push is going to be... There's going to be multiple changes here. Video analysis UI, Alt-V, plus compiler tweaks. All right, whatever it is, go ahead and push it. And that should now be available on github.com/ronanpawn/splitrp/tree/rebuild. And you can go away because we don't need you anymore today. So yeah, this code should now include all of that latest stuff. If you wanted to go online and pull the code yourself, let's see, where does it say? Splits output plus consolidations and refactoring. These 3 files have been updated on the GitHub. Last commit 28 seconds ago. And after the live stream, I will create a executable version of it, zip it up, and if you go to releases, 5 releases, that should end up being here. Yeah, it should end up being at the top of the list as long as it doesn't fuck up the way that it has in the past with certain releases that I've put out, but there'll be a new version that you can download as an executable file. You can just click on the release that you want, and at the bottom of the release, download the zip file, extract it, and run it. That's what it's going to be. Are you planning on shipping this tonight? I'm planning running cluster check tonight for my first splits, and it would be cool to use this as I get better times, says Ben VOC. Yeah, I'm going to wrap it up, but we could do it together. I just, every time that I go to do this, I have to fucking remember how it's done. So, in Terminal, first off, I always have to remind myself what the fucking library name is. So if I go to Settings, it is PyInstaller. Yeah, PyInstaller is what I'm using. So what I would want to do, and let's pull open my... Can I click here and then right-click open in? No. So here, pull you open. Show in Explorer. So here's where the files are. Under dist, I've got all of these built 0.4.8, which is the latest build, right? 0.4.8-alpha? I haven't pushed another one since I released the alpha. Okay, fair enough. 0.4.8, which should be representative of what's under here. This should all be 0.4.8. Yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell this to PyInstaller splitrp.py. And I don't remember if there's any, like, extra shit that I have to do, or if there's things that I usually do, little, like, modifiers, /p or something like that. I think it might just work just doing this. Maybe it's as simple as this. This is why I always have to figure it out. It used to be really fucking complicated, and this might actually just work well enough. So let's see. Okay, splitrp.py not found. Ah, well, you're in the dist category. I don't want you there. I want you here. And then we do PyInstaller splitrp.py. Okay. So this is PyInstaller is now building this into something that can be run as an executable from directory. The output directory and all its contents will be removed. That is fine. It won't remove all of my zip files that I've got of all the other versions. And it completed successfully. So now, if we go over to dist, and we go to splitrp, this has all just been written here. Basically what it's doing is packing into the splitrp.exe, it's packing Python. The entire fucking, the engine of Python in there, and it's packing, this is all being zipped into this executable file. Along with Python is my code. And so then, it packs it into the executable file. When you run the executable, it unzips itself, and then it shoves my code into the compiler that's just unzipped into temporary space. And that is how you do executable distributions of Python on Windows. It's a bit fucked up, and all these files are here to just support the various things that are going on there. Now, because I haven't set up my PyInstaller stuff the way that I should have, because I don't understand it entirely, every time that I do this, I have to come back to the main directory. I grab images, run log. I'm going to go ahead and just delete everything in the run log. So I'll grab the images directory, the run log directory, and then I'll grab settings.config, clustertruck.rp. Is that it? Because these are my configuration files. And then I'll copy those, and then we'll go into the dist, over to here, and those aren't here right now, so I'll paste them. And now it's got all of the things that it expects to see in the places when I go to run it. When I run it, started and ready. If I open it up, this is no longer running in Python, and because of that, it's actually a bit slower. It's running off of, temporary space. So when we go to, do this analysis actually runs a bit choppier and slower in the executable distribution. I guess maybe because it's extracted into temporaries. I don't know why, but it does. So there will be a whole round of optimization. Is this Pythonista? It is, I'm using PyCharm as my IDE. Rewrite in C++. There is a project to actually, conform. You can put Python code into it, and it will try to conform the Python code to C++. So that's something also that could be looked into when I'm finally there, but this works. And that's basically what I'm looking for. Let's go ahead and run that analysis again. In fact, let's change the mark in, mark out, just so that we're doing something. We're testing the, various functionalities. I will cut off the last level from comparison, so we'll stop on that, just to see that we get a different result. And again, the scroll bar is still in there, but fuck that bug, don't care. And in the background, you know, this is on your computer. This is what it'll look like. It will have the console window open and this, and it won't, you know, in the end version, it'll just be a user interface. But this is helpful to have all of this information, especially during development, that is being outputted by it. And that gave us 9, not 10, because I stopped it at the 9th one using the in between, so that confirms that's working. The totals and numbers and times look, you know, plausible. They're also replicated down here, and here's the run log of all the events, not just the splits that it found, and then here are the actions as it was finding it being printed out. That's what we want. So the last thing that could be checked is if I did open live split one more time, and then started up the server, and then started the SplitRP executable. This one's not running, right? You're not running. It's just the executable. So we'll leave this open in the background, whilst I run cluster truck. Again, and we expect to see the timer start all on its own, and it did. And then we expect to see it pause, and it did. Expect to see it unpause when I go back into the level, and it did. Son of a bitch! Ah. I want, like, one more split off of this. Just so that we get, like, you know, result I expect to see in the window. Okay. Now I'll reset. I'll leave the window. And over here, we've got in our console the run log of all the events it saw. When it saw the menu, it did nothing. When we entered into the game, it started. It did pause, split, unpause, pause, split. And the 2 splits that we got were 6.981. It's pretty quick. For not, you know, just in... And then this one took 19.236 seconds, 17.4 by IGT. And totaling them up for us and telling us that we dropped 14 frames while we were doing it. It's good. Did you code cluster truck? Maybe. No. No, I had nothing to do with that. Don't blame me for that shit. The bugs in there are not my fault. The bugs in this, that's you talking. That's the right guy. You found him. But yeah, that works. Everything's working. So that is now a shippable version of SplitRP, and it's as simple as selecting everything, and we'll do it in 7-zip. We'll add to archive, and I'll rename it when it's done. And now I have something to upload to GitHub. SplitRP.zip, that's you. You're out, we'll go over here, paste it. And it'll be SplitRP, not RO, rebuild, alpha, version 0.5.21.zip. So that's what I have to send up to GitHub. You may have figured out the secret of my version naming convention. Don't tell anybody. It's a secret to everybody. So sign in? I'm not signed in. Well, sign me in. Yeah, I don't know what my password is. It's just a long code of strings and things. Pull request action. Releases, edit release. How do I make a new release? Go back to releases. Back to the full list release. Draft a new release. Attach the binaries. It's gonna be you, sir. And then we need like all the titling and stuff, which I'm going to duplicate the tab. And then I'm gonna go back. And I'm basically gonna edit this one. And whatever I did over here, I'll do over here. So this is May 21st, 2020. Proper splits. So new features is both in console and in video analysis UI. Splits data. Splits specific times. Split times. Say split times. Split times are generated and presented in the form of RTA, IGT, waste, including running tallies of those times. Clean up. This marks my first effort to tidy up my code, refactor things, refactor functions and classes that were redundant, and generally not have to cringe when I look at my class structures. Wrap up. Structures. It has been number of lines has been reduced by the hundreds. The main split rp.py file is back down to less than 600 lines of code. This should make run moderation and video analysis a lot easier. And for live running, provide a backup output of the timings sent to live split during the run. And what does that look like? I wouldn't usually do this, but I'll put a thing there. How about we just do changes? Changes, and then and like that. Yeah. Good. And then the release title, what do we do before? The first UI video moderation tool. Tag version needs to be whatever I said it was. It's, in fact, what is it over here? Dash alpha. So v0.5.21 dash alpha. Does that seem about right? Yep. Release title, let's see. All hail proper splits. Hail proper splits day. Yeah, alright, what the fuck. So there's a thing, that's the thing, this is a pre-release, boom, boom, boom. And any other changes that I need to make? Don't think so. Go. All hail proper splits data. Alright, so now if we go to the releases page, if I do a hard refresh, fuck. It did some shit, didn't it? Yep, it made an attachment to some bullshit. Fucking GitHub. Well, you're gonna have to scroll to find this one, just like you had to scroll to find this one. So it has verified an attachment to this issue from June 5th, 2019, with a completely different version under a completely different build of the thing, because GitHub is made by programmers for programmers, so it's not without bugs. Which means that because it's verified it to that, it has put it in the list, not based on when I submitted it, aka to fucking day, but it's put it where it would be in 2019. And I have no means of actually fixing that. I have reached out to GitHub moderators, and they've said, delete it and resubmit it and something, and I tried, and no. So this is just a bug in GitHub. My latest release is buried under all of the other releases. Fucking assholes, GitHub. And they said, well, it's not a bug, technically, because it's doing what it's meant to be doing. Except for it's a bug because it's attached something that was uploaded today that I did not attach from a completely different fucking branch and build to an issue that was stated on a different branch to fucking a year ago, and I can't override it. So yeah, it is a fucking bug. Anyway, you can find it here. You can find it specifically there. And I have to send this off to AJ, our moderator, basically right now. So, thanks for coming out, ladies and gentlemen, germs and girls. What? What did you think of Pacific Rim? I am the Ronin Ball. We'll be back. We won't be programming the next time that we're back. We'll be back. I would do some City Skylines, or we'll jump back into speedrunning Cluster Truck, probably. And now I think it's more likely that we could actually find ourselves, running KSP at some point in the future, playing KSP. But it'll either be City Skylines next, or back to Cluster Truck to try and run for that sub 20-minute time that we know we can get. Thanks for coming out, everybody. I will see you the next time that I see you, which I'll try and make it tomorrow, but it could be the day after. Just keep your eye out, because you never know with me. Have a good night, everybody. On out.